frame.
And if that fucking cat makes any sort of background noise, you're just going to have to deal with it. Hey.
Drinking out of the sink.
Welcome to another Lone Angler podcast. And I'm actually in the Goblin's Den. I'm not doing any weird shit with wireless microphones where there's apparently annoying heater noise. Please, I have a guest with me. I have an actual human being in the Goblin's Den.
What? In person?
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
In-person podcast? Is that even a thing anymore?
I don't know. We'll probably end up with some dirty strain of COVID.
I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
I've dodged that thing like Neo for, well, how many years has it been now? 3 years?
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not too worried. Not too
adjust
worried
the
about it. I'm not going to get it because I mask up when I'm by myself in my car. So.
Do you just tuck your beard up your nose?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I asked you to introduce yourself. You're not being a very good listener.
People just know
He's just
me.
like, I'm a guest, so I'm just going to take over.
I don't like introducing myself. It's weird. It seems a little egotistical.
Okay, you guys all know him from TikTok, Snapchat, and recently a new TikTok channel on the DL.
That's right.
We have in the Goblin's Den, sitting at the table of chaos, Dale Luginbill.
It's not very chaotic. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, I cleaned it up. We should let these guys know how this came about, because this didn't come about till when? Thursday?
Yeah, like
night?
yesterday.
Which is Thursday night.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're on it. You got that calendar down.
Well, I've had a sugar-free Red Bull, and now I'm on to a Monster.
You had 2 sugar-frees, didn't you?
No, just one.
Oh, just the one?
Yep.
It's like, man, this kid's going to be bouncing off the walls. But then I've been yawning nonstop for the last half hour. I'm like, man, I should have had one of them.
I one time tracked my caffeine intake in a 10-hour shift at work, and I took in a little over 1,200 milligrams.
Is that a lot?
They say, according to doctors, like 300 max.
Oh. Well, so it doesn't usually. He's snapping at his cat right now.
It's up on the counters. You know, I've shot it with Nerf guns. I've shot at it with Nerf guns. I've reprimanded verbally.
It's a cat, bro.
Leia, get down.
It's a cat.
Okay. You know, I love cats because of their independence.
But you hate cats because of their independence.
Well, it just sits there.
No, they look at you like,
fuck you, dude.
What
I waited all night until you got locked in on this podcast, and now I'm just going to stare at you because I know you're not going to get up and ruin your precious show. The fuck I won't.
Cats, no, dude. Cats.
No, they are. They're smart.
The only animal that's domesticated humans.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm totally cool with that.
Obviously, humans are, because that's how they domesticated us.
The only thing that knows is that I can take its life legally.
Does it really, even know that?
I think it does. And it just pushed it, but cats
I think it knows as it watches you sleep, like, I could kill you at any moment.
How?
Just jugular, dude. Have you ever seen the videos like a bobcat killing a fully grown deer?
This cat weighs 3 fucking pounds. It's not even close to a bobcat.
But relative to a deer, it's sort of the same ratio. Like, it just latches on and doesn't let go.
I hope to God a deer, if I'm sleeping and a deer comes up and says, I'm going to get your jugular, I hope it does.
Well, the deer's not doing it. The bobcat's doing it.
So there's a bobcat. Where am I sleeping that this is all taking place?
Your cat is just a smaller version of a bobcat. You're a smaller version of a deer, and that cat could kill you.
Okay, I see where you're at now. Sorry, I thought we were trying to fight through the fog of 2 grain belt premiums.
Oh, there's no fog with only 2 grain belts. That's just priming. That's just priming the bulb. I probably should have swung by the old liquor store and the old bottle shop, as it's called in other states, and
municipals. They're both municipal liquor stores.
Picked up a little 4-banger just for the podcast.
Yeah, the 2 that we have here
Drinking
in
water.
town are municipals. So supposedly the money goes back into the city.
Yeah, that's a nice little monopoly for the city.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, going back to this, all came about a Thursday night phone call. Go ahead, talk about it. What was your aha moment?
I had an aha moment.
Well, yeah, you were like looking at your schedule. He's a very important guy. He's got a schedule.
Well, I mean, I got stuff coming up, so I kind of looked at it, had some like up in the air maybe plans, kind of down more towards the cities, and then as the week grew on, I realized that those weren't going to happen, and then I looked at the calendar and I'm like, dude, if I'm gonna, and I want to chase like burbs, and we've been talking about going rock bass fishing, and as I looked in the calendar, I'm like, dude, this weekend might be my shot. Next weekend's shot, the weekend after that, I got the Hometown Hero Outdoors tournament on West Rush. And then the weekend after that, we got the Future Anglers of Minnesota event on Clearwater, which I'm captaining. And then shortly after that, I think I might have one open weekend in March. And then I have a trip for Snow Goose in South Dakota. Yeah, so I was like, dude, this might be my only open weekend. So I hit up Bo Patches here, like, what are you doing?
And I had a bunch of shit lined up, and I just went, nothing.
I don't believe that for a second.
I had one thing. But everything else, I just said, nah, yeah, I'm wide open.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? You want to go chase some Moroccos? And then he was instilling me with false confidence. Turned out to not be false.
Nope.
He said the thing that no angler should ever tell another angler. And we've all been there. We've all had, like, you've gone to the same lake and you're just smashing whatever fish it is that you're getting, bass or whatever. So you're talking to your buddy and I'm like, dude, I will take you out. Every time I go here, I catch a 3 or I catch 20 fish or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And inevitably you do it and then you're a liar because for whatever reason the fish aren't there. It only happens when you've bragged it up. So when he tells me, he's like, oh, it's 100%. It's guaranteed.
Just get here before dark.
I just said, don't say that. And I know you've talked about this spot before, and I hear the honesty in the voice. So I'm like, I actually had a pretty high level of confidence that it was going to pan out. But I've been burned as the one saying that before, and I've been on the other end of it. It's like some things you just don't say out loud. You just don't tempt fate.
And sometimes you just got to shoot your shot.
Well, you do. You want to know why? We're going to go off on a little tangent. I just recently watched a TikTok, and it was a clip from one of the Tonight Shows. I can't remember what the guy's name is. Who's the one that's always singing? Not the James Corbin dude, but the other guy.
Always singing.
Yeah, he's always doing like a lip sync battle or
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
And he had Nicole Kidman on there, and they were talking about a story, however long old, where Nicole Kidman came over to his New York apartment, and she actually was like interested in him, and he was so just like couldn't believe that Nicole Kidman was in his apartment that he didn't make a move and didn't say a thing, and the whole time from Nicole Kidman, she was just like, I just didn't. He's like, he must just not like me. And you could honestly see from Jimmy Fallon's like reaction, like, oh my God, what have I done? He's like, I was clueless. I had no, and you could see his mind going, are you telling me?
Yeah.
I had a shot with Nicole frickin' Kidman. And apparently he had a legit shot.
And he was fogged over.
Point being, you got to shoot your shot.
Yeah, but I think he would have if he wouldn't have been in this like starstruck fog.
Right. I mean, and it was kind of set up through a mutual friend of theirs.
Okay.
And I can't remember. I'd have to go back and watch it. But there was a reason for that. It's like, well, let's do this. And he's like, well, we can just go back to your apartment. So it wasn't creepy. It wasn't Jimmy saying, hey, come back to my apartment. The other guy was like, well, we need to do this, but we got to do this first. But like, we can just swing over to Jimmy's apartment and we can get lunch there or whatever, and then we can go on to this thing. So it was like very...
Yeah, it was in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was... I don't think it was a setup. It sounded like it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to get Nicole Kidman. Like, it was just... That's just how the day was panning out.
Right.
Nicole
Logistics.
Was like... She was like excited. She's like, oh my God, I get to go to Jimmy's apartment. And meanwhile, he's just freaking out and just doesn't say anything. So she's like, well, apparently he doesn't like me.
Wow.
And then at the end, he's like, I don't know if he's gay. And then they laughed, and that was like the end of the thing.
Huh.
But the moral of the story is you got to shoot your shot.
Right.
You never know.
Right.
Just shoot your
Are
shot.
you saying I'm the Nicole Kidman in this scenario of today?
Well,
and you were the Jimmy Fallon?
I feel like I'm more, I don't know. Did I shoot my shot or am I Nicole Kidman in your apartment?
No, I Yeah.
I mean, I'm in your apartment, so I'm more than Nicole Kidman in this story.
I'm just talking about let's get out of that whole scenario because that's getting a little creepy here, dude. I'm talking about hey man, it's 100% just get here before dark. Don't worry about it. You'll catch a double digit Rocco.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
and you said you'd be here around 3. So I got out there about, I don't know, 2:20.
I was fashionably late.
And I started just punching holes because I needed to find the correct spots. And as you were driving out, I hoisted one.
Yes, you did.
And you were like, huh.
There you go.
Okay. I could sense a vibe. And your first drop.
Yeah, loaded up.
First drop. Brunk.
10.5.
And you were just like,
just like master angler, just like that.
Yeah. Boom. Done.
Which I'm gonna have to fill out the form, but we're gonna get a bigger one for that tomorrow.
Yeah, you dumped a big one. I didn't get to see, but
I dumped a big one.
Yeah,
it was.
Well, I mean, we both have a mutual love for them critters, and when we were out there, I heard you say, "I don't understand how people do not like these."
It was so much fun, dude. Like, and this is like an exceptional scenario. Like, these are all, like, we caught more master anglers than we didn't.
Right.
Quite literally.
Right.
Like, so kind of stupid.
And we weren't even on a good spot.
Yeah, he's saving the juice for tomorrow, or the grease, as it would be.
Yeah. And then there's also another lake that also has, it's not as fast-paced action, but you'll get more 11s than you would at this lake.
We caught, I don't know. How many do you think we caught that were over 11? 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Out of a total of about probably 20-ish?
20-ish. Around there, yeah.
Between the two of us? Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's nuts, but it's like, they're willing biters. Mm-hmm. They fight good. They're just thick.
We got some pictures.
They look cool. Dude, I caught one that's just ridiculous.
I'll bet you if you cut him open, there was a Titleist in his belly.
It looked like it.
Yeah,
I
did.
told my buddy, I was like, this thing looks like, I was on the phone with a buddy of mine, Jimmy, when I caught that one. And I was like, this looks like one of those, like, those fat goldfish you buy. Like, it just looks artificially fat.
Or a Sarah Parvin bluegill.
Yeah, because it was only like, what did we measure? Was it 10? Like right at 10?
Yeah, it was right at 10.
But that thing probably weighed as much as the 11. Like, his gut was, like, ridiculous. And I'll post it on Instagram tomorrow or something. But the thing's just stupid. Yeah. Like, I was like, dude, look at this. And even you were like, damn, dog.
Yeah, that one, his pectoral fins had quite the spread on them.
It was an exceptional, that wouldn't be a profile. I don't know what you call it. But it was like, dude, silhouette. Like, that thing was fat.
Yeah, he didn't. He hasn't missed many McRibs in his day. I mean, he was putting them back.
That might be the clue to how these fish get so big. They're not eating. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I also gave you a heads up. I'm like, now these aren't your typical biting rock bass.
Yeah, I asked you, I'm like, should I grab a spoon rod or my tight line rod? And you're like, yeah, you might want a tight line because they don't really like thump it. They just kind of load up on it. I'm like, all right.
Yep, they don't like a ton of movement, a very subtle movement, but yeah, they just come up and they just kind of put their lips around it, and you're like, that feels strange, bonk, and then it's just like the
very first fish I caught was like straight up tight lined fish, where I was jigging and I'm watching my Vex. I'm like, the mark had totally overtaken my bait, but I felt nothing, saw nothing on my line, and just did the old like drop my line to 1/4 inch and it total slack. I'm like, oh yeah, wonk. And just loaded up all the way to the base. I was like, dude, here we go.
Yeah, and when you set the hook into them, they're so thick or dense. It's almost like, like you got a little piece of Mother Earth, and then it starts to move.
Yeah,
that's what I love about it.
I think I ripped off like 4 or 5 of them in like 4 or 5 straight drops out of that one hole. It's just like, all right. And then it cooled down. I had to move over a little bit, but yeah, they're just a ton of fun. It's one of those things. Like, I was talking to somebody today about like bass. He asked me about, he saw my post and he was asking me about when I kept that bass and I made the fish stock and I made some a bisque out of it, whatever. He's like, oh, how'd that bass turn? I was like, it was actually really good. And he's like, oh, I've caught a lot of bass, but I've never actually kept one. Are they any good? I'm like, they're as good as anything else. And people could lie to me all they want, but I was like, it's the same as a walleye. And I go, here's the thing. You'll hear, and I caught myself repeating, I'm like, even out of this cold water, they're really great. And I was like, that's dumb, because I keep them in the summertime too. Right. Small little ones, like when my family's up there in Pelican. The little 12 to 14 inches are perfect.
Absolutely.
I call them largemouth perch because that's basically what they are at that size. You get a nice fillet out of them.
They're very easy to clean. They're easy on the knife because their scales are small.
Yep, scales are small. The ribs aren't, that smaller size. The ribs aren't real big, so you don't have to cut around the ribs. You can just zip right through them super fast.
Yeah, quite opposite of a rock bass. You damn near need a steel chainsaw because they're just. It's like they're
armor plated.
Their sides are just stacked with thumbnails.
Yeah, because they like to live around debris. They love rocks and sticks and. That's why they're built the way they're built, to swim around that stuff and eat crayfish and stuff. So they're hardy. But I said, the thing is, you hear people saying, "Oh, they're mushy in the summer," but the same person that tells you that, ask them when the last time they caught and ate a bass, and they'll probably tell you never. So they're just repeating shit they heard.
Right. From the guy that had a largemouth on a stringer for about 6 hours in 90-degree weather, just under the surface of the water.
I'm convinced that probably nobody that says bass are mushy in the summer has actually ever put a knife to a bass.
Yeah.
It's what they've heard. And fishermen are notorious for this. Just those kind of things, they just repeat. They just do. And the whole thing, rock, and people are probably tired of me saying this about rock bass, but they're good table fare too, and they're like, oh, but they get wormy. You're going to sit here and look me in the eye and tell me perch are one of your favorite fish to eat and tell me they don't get wormy? They get the exact worms, the black specks and the white grubs that any rock bass gets. Just stop with the wormy thing.
And the black speck doesn't go all the way to the meat.
No.
That's just a surface.
No. And even the grubs, big deal.
Yeah.
You cook them up. You redden them anyways. I've seen nobody throw away a perch fillet because it had grubs in it. So it's the same thing as a rock bass.
I have.
Well,
I laced into one, and there was way more movement than I was comfortable with. And I was like, yeah, no, we'll let this one go right into the old trash.
I've never passed one up. Yeah. Here's the thing. Those parasites, they're sure there may be a little bit of a gross factor, but biologically speaking, they can't survive in the human body.
No, I'll fully admit, mine was all psychological.
Yeah.
Nope.
But again,
weird thing like that.
Point being is people that tell you that they're wormy have never actually cut one open. Again, they're repeating it because they wouldn't even think about keeping one.
Right.
They catch one, they think of them as trash fish, and they just throw them back, which for you and me is awesome. That's why the average size of a Rocco is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Because nobody's out there taking them out of the water.
No.
It's just a relatively unmolested population of fish.
And they're a wonderful bycatch. I've had people ask me, "Oh, dude, how do I target him?" I don't know. I'm one of those guys.
You can in winter.
One of my first trips with Crafty up on the Rainy River, with him, my first hook set with him in his boat. Guess what I caught on the Rainy River? A fucking yellow bullhead. I've caught moon eyes. I've caught.
I've yet to catch one of those
big ass smallmouth that typically aren't in that area of the river that we fish. I dumped a massive crappie, same type of scenario. Even Andrew saw it and he was like, "Why is there a fucking crappie here on the Rainy River? They're usually down by the piers, down by the resorts." I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "You're the guy." Master angler, silver red horse, which I'm sure he's caught plenty of those and just doesn't give a shit.
Doesn't know it. Yeah.
But I will tip my hat to the individual who, you were talking about earlier about walleyes taste better than perch and perch tastes better than bass and this and that. The only person I'd ever tip my hat to and be like, I'll take your word for it, is the same guy if you gave him a plate of fried chicken, various different species of chicken, or, family of chicken, and he was able to name those off. Because 99.9%, to anybody sitting there, it's all fried chicken. Same thing with fish. If I don't even tell you what it is, and I put all the shitty breading over top of it, you're going to be like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. Guess what, dude? You just ate dogfish.
Dude, I did this experiment with rock bass. I had a buddy of mine, and we were up on
Didn't
Vermilion.
you do it with sheep's head, too?
I kept a sheep's head, but I didn't try to trick anybody with it. I kept one for myself just to see.
That's right. And I remember you telling me
so good.
You said it was
they
awesome.
actually do taste good. They have they actually have a sweetness to them, and they're very firm, very good. They're a little bit of a pain in the ass to clean, and by pain in the ass, I mean there's one extra step. Their bones are thick, so you can't just zip through the rib cage. You do have to do the fillet around the rib cage method, and then there's a big line of pretty thick pin bones. And I just basically cut that strip out, like you would with a northern. I mean, I could have got the pliers and plucked them out, but at this point, I didn't know if it was going to be worth it my time anyway. So I cleaned it quickly and.
Well, and I think that's why we have a northern pike issue with hammer handles everywhere.
It's a pain.
People just don't want to take the time, and I'm one of those people.
Same.
I've tried 14 different ways of cleaning pike, and I just get frustrated, and to the point where I'm not going to keep the fucking things.
I mean,
they're really good. I've eaten pike
from
people that know how to clean them, and oh my god, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're great. I can clean them. I can get the Y bones out of a pike just fine. I've cleaned a million of them, but it's why, when there's other fish I can go catch at will, that I don't have to screw around with
and that's I think that's part of the reason why we have this stunted across the state pike issue.
Well, and I think it's great that they upped the limit to 10. But
it's not doing anything if people aren't keeping them.
Right, but I do think that they set the limit a little too small. That slot where you can keep 10 of them. It's bro, I would only keep the very upper inch end of that slot. I'm definitely not keeping the low end of it. No. I mean, unless you're pickling them, which I've never really had, and I don't generally like pickled things.
I don't like pickled fish.
But apparently the pickled just dissolves the bones, so you don't even have to mess with it. All right, so if you like that,
that's mushy.
Sure, why not? I mean, go for it.
That's mushy.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I guess I assumed they'd be more firm, but I have no point of reference to that. But point being is I did, we were on Vermilion. I caught a rock bass. It was a big one. It's kept it. And, of course, my buddy was giving me the whole rigmarole about how they taste like shit and they wormy this and wormy that. I said, you know what? I'm going to bet you $50. I'm going to clean these up tonight, and I'll make sure that one rock bass fillet is on your plate. And if you can pick it out, I'll give you $50. He ate that whole plate. He was never able to pick it out. He still won't keep them. He was just being steady. He's whatever, I'm not keeping those things.
All right, good.
I guess. I mean,
more trophy possibilities for guys like you and me.
I literally just proved it to you, and you're still nope.
Yeah.
Fishermen are they're. I don't know what it is. They love to repeat that kind of shit.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is either. It's maybe it's a status type thing. Oh, you keep rock bass? Oh, things must be rough. Things must be a little tough at the Olson house.
I don't know. It's different for me. When I hear somebody that fishes for them on purpose, I'm just dude, you so went up in the cool factor for me.
We just became best friends. You want to do karate downstairs?
Yeah, exactly. And I ran in. There was a group of guys that go up to the resort there, Northland Lodge and Orr, and they were there the same week my family was up, and they were going out and fishing walleyes every day. And then, we started, talking to each other as we'd meet each other on the docks and stuff. And the one day they're going down to the docks as we were going, all right, go get him. Yep, it's rock bass day today. And I thought they were kidding. I was little nervous laugh or whatever. And they're no, really, we target rock bass every day. I'm that is so cool. And then we happened to get back to the dock at the same time, and they were carrying up a basket of tubs. I was what? You guys were actually serious? They wouldn't tell me where the spot was, but now I got to find it myself. But that was so cool. They said, yep, we do this every year. We take one day and we target rock bass.
That's cool to hear, but that also kind of worries me. As a fellow rock bassian or a rock bass aficionado, I would like to share my loot with another rock. It's kind of like when you meet somebody that's really into heavy metal music like me. It's oh, we're friends now. We're friends because I don't run into you kind of people very often.
Right.
So when I run into a fellow, another person that's like, hey man, I really appreciate it. I'm a big rock bass fan. Well, do you have a couple hours to spare? Because we're going to talk. And I'm not looking for spots. I want to hear the stories.
Do you have some time for me to tell you about my Lord and Savior, Rock Bass?
Should I go door to door sometime? No, that'd be great. I'll give you this free flashlight if you let me listen to you. But, at the end of the day, I mean, I've had to explain, I hate to say it like that, but I've had to explain of why I fish for the things that I like to fish. Well, case in point, when you were on the phone, you said, "Oh, I'm fishing with Patrick from the Lone Angler." Oh, that's a bullhead guy. And I was like, "Man, I haven't heard that in a while." And
which I thought was great. Like that was his takeaway. He's the bullhead guy. He's like, I don't get that.
and I'm an opportunist. I've met too many people at landings. How was the fishing? Oh, it was horse shit. What were you fishing for? Walleyes. We didn't get a one. Oh, how long were you out there? 6 hours? I'm like, and maybe I have too much ADHD, but if I'm an hour in a walleye fishing and I haven't caught anything and I hear smacking under the pads, guess what I'm doing? I'm bluegill fishing now. I'm out there. I have this certain time of the day, whether it's after work or it's a beautiful day on a Saturday or something. I want to maximize that. So when it comes to species, I might say I'm going to set out for this species, but I know in the back of my mind, I could be setting up a bullhead rig at some point. I could be throwing the fly. I could be rock bassing. I could be hunting down dogfish if I see one swimming up, looking around, be like, whew, bobbers in, kids. Grab the spinner baits and frogs. We're fishing for bowfin now.
Dude, I always flip for doggies. If I'm out bass fishing in the spring and I'm working the shallows and I see one porpoise, I immediately pitch. I grab the jig rod and I'll just pitch right where he's at, like every time. And 9 times out of 10, that fish will bite. And there's been a few times where I'm just working and I look down and I see one in the weeds. Maybe it's on its bed, maybe it's just not. But if you dangle something in front of their face, more times than not, they're going to hit it. And you got to fight on your hands.
Oh, big time.
First, you got to set the hook because those things have a bony-ass mouth.
It's like trying to drive a 2-aught hook into a cement block.
Yeah. And
it's tough.
I like them things too. They're super cool.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we created a hybrid between a rock bass and a dogfish?
Oh my
I couldn't live on this planet.
That would be amazing.
I couldn't live on this planet.
I think they call those snakeheads. I mean, not really, because they don't have like they don't have the armored body. I mean, dogfish already kind of have the armored body. Like they'd be like a snub-nosed gar between if you mixed dogfish with rock bass.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, rock bass too. They taste like crap. They eat, rock bass, right? Majority of their diet's going to be what? Crayfish. Minnows.
Yeah.
What do walleyes eat? Crayfish, minnows,
other fish.
Yeah. So I don't.
Yeah, I'm sure they're eating like, Hellgrammite nymphs and dragonfly nymphs and all sorts of,
which walleyes
bugs.
do too.
Yeah, everything. I mean, they eat everything that everything else does.
When I live right here, 2 blocks from Lake Bemidji, so if there's one of those banger mayfly hatches, downtown is actually really kind of gross. It smells. They're thick, man. It's nasty, and the fishing sucks because the fish bellies are just full of them things, man.
When it's like that, like Mille Lacs gets really bad like that too, where just like everything is coated, every gas station is just like there's a cloud, and then like you see them all spent on the service. And if you just like stop and think, and then like in your mind like pull back, like a balloon going, and like try to picture in your mind the biomass that must be, because it's not just Mille Lacs, it's usually like every area lake, you know, and it's like how many, like. My brain starts to crack when I try to wrap my mind around how big of a biomass this is, and like what is actually going on right now.
And then you zoom out into the scope of the entire state, and you're just this little tiny spot.
And there's literally millions, like
billions. Yeah,
dude, that's just like
Funny story. I took Ellen one time when she was really little down to Diamond Point Park, and the mayfly hatch was going on, and she started crying. She's like, "Dad, there's bugs," and I told her that they were fairies, and then everything was cool. She was not afraid of them anymore.
Dad win.
And to a 3-year-old kid, yeah, they are kind of creepy. They're not small.
They look creepy even up close. Like if you look at them, they look like they kind of look like Alien, like from the movie Aliens.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they look more like, if anybody's a fellow comic nerd myself, they look more like the Brood from the Marvel comics. The X-Men battled with the Brood a lot, and
Oh, yeah, I
which
know
is
what
a
you're
blatant ripoff of the aliens from Alien. But they do
Yeah.
look more insecty than
Yeah.
the alien. And they look a lot like mayflies, but they they look creepy, but they don't have a mouth. So then they got those two things that come off their butt that could look like stingers to somebody who didn't know,
Yeah.
But
I just told her that they were fairies, and then everything was cool. But
that's a lot of fairies.
But
You don't see that unless you're downtown Minneapolis.
well, and thanks for listening. Now that I'm canceled across the internet. Yeah. No, it was really fun out there. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. It's supposed to be warmer. I'm gonna check the wind.
There's a little bit of a breeze today.
Yeah, it was
It's
cutting,
a little biting, but not terrible.
but we're gonna have some fun tomorrow.
Let me check the wind here. We'll go to windy.
Ooh, I used to have that.
Don't you know it's windy?
Since we're gonna go off on yet another tangent, the whole smartphone, application stores, whether it be Google or Apple, God, it just pisses me off. Every one of them you can download for free, and almost every one of them have some sort of subscription. Like, I'll pay you $20. Just give me the whole fucking thing. I don't want to pay $4 a month, or I don't even want to pay $1 a month.
Well, it looks like it's gonna be nice. At 9:00, we got like southwest wind. Let's say it says 9 knots, and then at noon, it's like 6-7 knots. So it's actually.
Can you convert
less
knots to mph?
I think it's really close to 1 and 1.
Cool.
Yeah,
Remind me not
to
sail with you anytime
I think
soon.
knots and miles. I think knots and miles an hour are pretty close to the same.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be like 40 some degrees. So it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be beautiful.
We should try to. I'm gonna bring the scale this time.
That'll be good.
I'd like to weigh some.
I would have liked to have weighed that fat one.
Yeah.
And then compare it to a normal, not fat, 10.5 incher.
In when I was targeting sheep's head, I never weighed them. I just measured them.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had people, how many pounds was that thing? I was like, I don't know. And being a fish that I've never weighed before, I don't know. The biggest one I ever caught, I think, was like 29.5 inches, which is a pretty big sheep's head. And I don't know. It could have been 10 pounds. It could have been 15. I have no clue.
My biggest sheep was, I think it was 29 3/4 inches. Like I was a 1/4 inch off of a
Here we go.
master angler sheepy.
I know let's talk about master anglers. I know the list really well. And there's some of them on there that I think they need to take a
Tweak it a little bit. Yeah, I agree.
15-inch perch.
I mean, it's a giant.
It is a giant. 11-inch bluegill. That's not an easy feat.
No, but it's doable. But
I've gotten
to me,
two
that's
of them in the last
that's kind
2
of what
years.
it should be, though. I think.
Yeah, but I think the 15-inch perch is way out of line.
But should it? I think it's a little much
For a master angler.
Yeah, I would put it at 14.
See, I was thinking 13.
I've caught 13s, even in this state.
Yeah,
Back,
I have
Mille Lacs
two.
used to be back when Mille Lacs was the place to go for like late ice perch fish, and there used to be jumbies in there a lot, and it seems like they're slowly coming back. 13s were not uncommon.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with a guy at work about that. He was reminiscing about the days when perch limit was 100. And I think we are coming out of the effects of that now because they're starting to come back in Cass. They're starting to come back in Winnie. But it's taken that 100 limit perch. I can't remember what year
It was a while ago.
they cut that back, but it's taken
It was a long while ago.
But
I don't know how many people were keeping that much. my dad and I kept our limit of perch one time in our life. For one, it's hard to catch 200 perch, keeper perch for
it's
two
even
guys.
harder to clean them.
Like that, right? That's the lesson we learned. Like
Yes.
even if we could, we would never
Never
do that again.
No.
It literally took all day, and we caught those in 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like it was.
Well, that's the cool part about ice
It
fishing
was
for perch.
ridiculous, dude.
You know, it's not like walleyes where they come in onesie twosies. If you get into a perch, it's like, you know, they're usually quite the numbers there.
And I didn't start out doing this, but then I started sight fishing because we were in I think it was 12 feet of water, and the water was clear, and you could just look down the hole. And so I was just laying on my belly, looking down the hole, covering the hole, like that, and just I'd pull it away from the little ones, and then I'd catch a nice one, and then all of a sudden you get a northern would come in, and you'd catch the northern, and it was a ton of fun. But once we got our limit, my dad's like, well, let's go home, and it was I don't know, 3:34, and I'm like, what are you talking about? The walleyes are going to start biting as soon as the sun gets a little bit lower, and if everything else has been biting like this, what do you think the walleyes are going to do? And he's like, it's good going. I'm like, oh my God. I was so mad at my dad.
And even more mad when you got to your 99th perch.
199th.
You had to clean all 200 of them?
We clipped. Well, no, because he actually gave a small ice cream pail full of them to the neighbor for him to clean, which I don't know, probably was only 25 or 30. It was just an ice,
Still,
1 gallon ice cream
That's
bucket.
a long day, man.
And these were all 9s or better, 9s to 12s. They're all nice.
Yeah.
It's oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cleaned some in the morning, then I had to go to school. He said he cleaned some throughout the day. I'm sure it wasn't nonstop. And then when I got home, there was still half a 5-gallon bucket to do.
Yeah.
I was never again.
No.
Never again.
And I love to eat fish, and I know how to clean fish. I just, man, and part of it is because I'm an afternoon shift kind of fisherman. If I go during the week, I usually don't get back home until 10:30 at night. And the last thing I want to do is clean fish before I got to go to bed and go to work the next morning. So if I do keep fish, I also if it's just me, I'll keep 2 bluegill. That's a meal for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to stockpile my freezer.
I like the idea of keeping fish, but I'm definitely more of a catcher than a consumer of fish because I like to fish till I run out of light. And in the summertime in northern Minnesota, that's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is now I got to stand in front of the sink for a half hour and clean fish.
Yeah.
I'm beat. I'm going to drink a beer. I'm going to pass out.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So all them fish, but you're I clean them damn fish. God dang it.
In the wintertime, I think is the worst because, the time you get home off the ice, it's earlier, definitely earlier in the evening, but they're frozen.
Right.
And when they thaw out, you might as well be trying to fillet a booger.
Yeah, they're so
fucking slimy. You can't get a hold of nothing.
Yeah.
And then your fingers just
get cold.
Really cold.
Yeah.
As you get into the meat, oh God.
But and then you do kind of have to clean. You want to clean them when they're half frozen, almost. They're still firm because if they thaw all the way out, then they get mushy.
Yeah.
So then it's
I learned that lesson burbot. Cleaning burbot. That's a great fish to talk about it right now. You're usually fishing those things right now at night. And they'll be frozen. You're better off to clean them right there on the ice and just put the stuff in the bucket and just clean them right away because of all the fish that I've cleaned, those are the worst to have frozen and then thaw out because they have no skeletal structure.
right.
Hardly at all. So it's like trying to fillet Jello. And they don't have scales. It's skin.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really, really tough. They just roll around and they got this big belly and it's a nightmare.
Well, I'm looking forward to catching some. I might try it tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Give it a few hours after dark and then,
Yeah, and I'll set you up with some coordinates on Winnie as well, where Crafty and I have gone. There should be a road out there. Around living here in Burbot country, as one would think, or as one would call the Bemidji area, I'm not afraid to say it that, Bemidji kind of put Burbot on the map a little bit. Guys like Jason Rylander and Matt Brewer and so on kind of put the fame on burbot fishing. I learned how to do it from those guys back in like 2008, and nobody was really targeting burbot. And it was a lot of it, I'm going to say, was Jason Rylander's love for burbot really brought them forward. And, like, wow, these are cool fish.
Well, in this area of the state, they look good.
Yeah,
like
they do.
They're really
We're
pretty.
lucky.
Yeah. You catch one in Lake of the Woods, and it's like, nah.
And we all became such big burbot heads. Like, you start seeing them pop up online, and I can look at a burbot now, and I can tell you, I can with pretty good accuracy tell you that is a Cass Lake burbot, that's a Pike Bay burbot, that's a Bemidji burbot, that's a Lake of the Woods, that's a Gull Lake. Gull Lake is very easy to pick out. Their color schemes are really wild. They're not real tight leopard print looking type deal or marbling like we have here. They've got a lot of weird like spots and stuff on them, and they're a little bit more rusty colored, rusty and gold. Then your Lake of the Woods are like the gray brown. Then ours are just yellow and olive drab.
God, they look cool, dude. They got a cool paint job on them, that's for sure.
Yeah. There's a guy over he lives over at Cass Lake, Tim Humphreys, Pout Master. He's got a little guiding service. He guides bear, and he was guiding some wolf trapping for a little bit.
Well, he only had it open for 2 years.
Yeah, he was doing that for a little bit, and then his big shtick is he's just a burbot guide, and he showed me a picture of a burbot he caught on Cass Lake that was black and orange.
Oh, wicked!
Very cool. It looked like the Belrog from Lord of the Rings.
You'd want to get a replica of that.
Yeah,
like that's just cool.
That's the suck part about being a burbot guy, like.
You have to get a replica.
Well,
pretty much.
I talked to Jimmy Lawrence about it and seeing if he'd be interested. I said, you can have the thing. I'm not asking for a free replica or anything like that. And he's like, man, those things are they're tough to mold because I send them down to him frozen. And then, like I said before, when you thaw them out, they just don't hold shape. And he's like, you can't position them real well. So there was a taxidermist here in town. He's retired, but he did Aaron Guthrie's state record burbot, and that's hanging up at Northwoods. You should swing by there and check that out. That guy, he carved a foam body.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only way you can really do it. Like, if you're going to make a mold, is to carve one.
Yeah, And then what's funny about that one is he caught that on Lake of the Woods.
But he wanted it painted like a
Bemidji. He had it painted like a Bemidji burbot.
Cheater.
Which I would have done the same. I
don't think I would have.
I don't know. They're kind of pretty.
The
Lake of the Woods ones aren't bad.
They have their own identity, and my thing has always been like, I want to look at that fish on the wall and know that it's my fish. I don't want it painted like every other fish, So painting it up different than what it is, I just personally wouldn't like it. Like when I had my northern pike mounted, I told him, like, hey, you see those like defects in the picture? I want those on there.
Yeah.
And he put them on there.
Well, with those rock bass that I have on the wall, I talked to the taxidermist because he said, hey, your fish are ready to pick up. And I said, cool, were you able to get that aquarium itch on there? And he's like, yeah, I thought about that, but I didn't want to ruin it. He goes, I like your idea of just using like clear silicone and kind of putting a thin little blobs.
A little cloudy right there.
Yeah. And he's like, I just didn't want to ruin it because they turned out really nice. I was like, okay, that's cool. He's like, why would you want that on there? I said, because that's what it was, man. I said, I'm not disappointed. I understand. They're rock bass. I mean, they're the only ones I've seen mounted before. But burbot, yeah, they're a tough one to get mounted. Why are you on your phone? We're doing a fucking podcast. I thought you were a professional.
I am a professional. You were telling a story. Keep talking.
The story's done now.
No, well, because you stopped
not out of punishment. I
got to make a podcast picture.
Oh God. You're just a social media juggernaut now.
I'm not actually.
What do you mean you're not?
This is going to the old lady.
Oh, okay. Well, all you got to do is tell me there's a doe involved, and I'll chill out.
I
thought this was just mindless thumb flicking.
Hi, Katie. No, I wasn't checking my legs.
Disrespecting me.
No.
Okay. Just making sure, man.
Setting her mind at ease because she thought I was ghosting her.
Oh, you're in the Goblin's Den. Did you tell her, hey, I'm in the Goblin's Den?
I did not say that because I feel like that would then she's not going to know what that means. And then I'm going to have to be on my phone even more because now I'm going to have to describe what the Goblin Den is.
If she's like, are you in danger? You say, sometimes and maybe.
A little bit.
Perhaps. I can't say no more. And then you end it.
That'll ease her mind. I don't think that's smart at all.
No, probably not. And hence, like I said, 7 years single because I do stuff like that. Are you in danger? Yeah, sometimes. Maybe. I'm not right now, but I could be.
She's still getting used to the idea that, like, if she doesn't hear from me for an extended period of time, it doesn't mean I died. It means I'm probably somewhere without cell signal.
Yeah. Agreed.
Even though sometimes I do get my wheeler stuck in the middle of nowhere by myself. That does happen.
Yeah, I put in a request for an update on Snapchat. And I know it's a hike back there, so I've been kind of bumming out, but I'm also like, you know what? I'm just going to save the excitement for springtime.
It really is a hike back in there now because I can't, like, I was able to drive my truck like halfway there before, and now I can't. There's no way I could drive the truck even that far. So it would be, that's going to be a good, like, probably 3 mile hike to my wheeler.
You guys got quite a bit of
one way,
quite a bit more snow than we do.
We did out of the gate, and then this last storm missed us. Everything went south. Like Duluth to Hibbing was kind of the line. We didn't and we've gotten like an inch here, and a dusting here, maybe another inch. So honestly, it's kind of, I don't think we've had any significant snowfall in over a month.
Nice. That's good.
Yes and no. I mean, it's nice being able to get around, but the lakes at the end of the summer were down, like way down. So we actually could use more precipitation. So
I'm gonna agree with you. I heard you talking on the ice there. We're gonna have an early ice out.
Yeah, I think so. Just because the way the season progressed this year, where we got we had some ice, then we got all that snow, and then we had the slush that everybody hates. But what that did is insulated the ice, and we only really had like 2 real big extended cold snaps this winter. So there's just not that much ice.
You still don't. When Crafty and I were up in Lake of the Woods 2 weeks ago, you did not need an extension.
Yeah, I don't think.
And you weren't even close, really.
I don't even think Lake of the Woods needs extensions yet.
That's what I was saying.
And they probably won't now. If you look at the extended forecast, I don't see anything in there that.
No, but years past this time of the year, you were.
Oh yeah.
You were looking for at least the 18-inch extension.
Yep. So So once things start melting, that's just less ice and less,
I think we're going to end up with low water this summer.
Maybe we'll have a wet spring. I don't know.
And you just can't predict the weather anymore.
Yeah.
I was talking to a lady at the gas station. I think it was at the gas station. No, it was at Ace Hardware today when I picked up the bolts for my little auger rack thing. We got talking about the weather because she was like, oh, it's beautiful out there. And I said I was going fishing and this and that. And we got talking about how I remember when I was a kid, there was a slow progression from, 20 above. Okay, over the next like 5 days, it's going to get a little bit colder. And then all of a sudden we're in this deep freeze. Now it's like today or tomorrow will be 41. Sunday it could be negative 16. A whopping 16 hours later. There are these extreme drops now that's been happening these last couple of years, and that's kind of weird, man.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it's ever been up there, but it was like this summer when we were there, like the dam at Pelican, like it was just a trickle coming over it. It was pretty wicked to see, but it's been worse.
And it's kind of a trade-off too,
It was early. It was like 91, 92. I think we had a drought year, and the rivers were super low that year. So it's not, this isn't the first time it's happened for all those out there that blame every single weather event on climate change. It's like, listen, it's happened. Like, one of the things I always see when they're like, this is the first time this happened since 45 or 1936 or whatever. It's like, so it's happened before.
Right.
Okay, we're good.
Right. What was that recent thing? We talked about it on the phone. the Earth's core spinning the opposite direction.
Oh, yeah.
And how the media was like, oh my God. And you go to YouTube and there's these big things, and you're just like, what the fuck? And then scientists, actual real scientists with knowledge come out and go, yeah, we figure it happens about once every 75 years.
Yeah, they're pretty much like, yeah, it happens. And they're like so nonchalant. They're not like, yeah. It's like,
okay.
The poles shift. Yeah, sometimes. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it sounds like a big deal, but
back to you, Bob.
And other things that happen all the time.
That we were apparently clueless about, that we maybe were, not paying attention in 7th grade science. I don't know.
But that's what happens when, like, the media gets a hold of stuff, too. It's the same thing with, like, the bomb cyclone, right? This is that's a term. I thought it was, like, brand new made up term. It's like, no, it's a meteorological term. Been using it for 100 years. It describes what that is. It's a bomb cyclone. But news media is like, they got a hold of it like, dude, this is a bomb cyclone. Like, this is not your average cyclone. Like, this is a bomb cyclone. Like, and so everybody just freaks out. And you're like, bro, that's just what it's called. Yeah, and it happens.
You've got social media people in these newsrooms like, they use the word bomb. Okay, that's clickbait right there. What are you doing?
I found myself like a ninja suction cup star.
Oh yeah, just kind of throw it. Yeah, and it'll hit the floor and it'll stick.
I'm trying to get on the wall.
No, don't do that. You put a hole in it, man.
Just stop. Oh, jacket! It's not sticking to the jacket.
Unbelievable.
Totally believable. What are you talking about? I'm a child.
Yeah, the bomb cyclone. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. Like the way they just like sensationalize everything.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of like the climate change fear mongering and stuff, but they always use the poster child of the polar bear. And my thing was like, all right, if you look back on like the timeline, the ice cores, because that's what they always bring up, right? Okay, yeah, let's look at the ice core samples. Let's look at the timeline and these giant spikes of up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, now let's look at the fossil records of a polar bear. How long have these things been polar bears? Like, I don't know, 1 million years or 500,000 years or whatever the thing might be. Well, let's look at that climate graph overlaid with the fossil record of polar bears. They've been through a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. I don't think you have to worry about them. Right. It sounds like they're pretty adaptable. Like,
yeah.
How did they survive all these other things? But now they're in danger of going extinct. It's the dumbest thing that humans have ever put on like their endangered species list. Like their population is more than healthy, and they've put them on the endangered species list just because of climate change, like with the giant question mark after it. Like, well, they might, if this trend keeps going, they might start dying off. You can't just be slapping stuff on the endangered species list because it has broad sweeping ramifications. Like now certain, places you can't harvest them, or you can't do this and you can't do that. And there's people that have to live with these things. Mm-hmm. But legally they can't mess with them now because they're on the endangered species list. You're like, what are you talking about?
And I don't think the word extinct is a very good word to use either. They could evolve.
Well, I think there was for a hot minute, and this disappeared pretty quickly, but I think it was like 5 years ago, maybe more. I'm old. But they were talking about polar bear grizzly hybrids, that they were already starting to do this, as this was like proof of climate change or whatever. And it quickly went away because I think some real scientists got probably interviewed, and they're like, yeah, that happens. When the populations overlap, they're like, yeah,
I wish I could be one of those scientists. Yeah, man, that happens.
It's just like when the newscaster is like, he thinks it's a gotcha moment for, I've got the scoop of the century. I'm going to
gotcha freak. Moment, to quote the movie The Interview, the McConaughey goat fuck scenario.
Yeah. Like they think they're just on this giant scoop. Oh, this is good. This headline is going to sell so many newspapers and people, I'm going to get so many clicks and then, so tell me about these hybrids. Yeah, that happens. And he doesn't have he wasn't expecting that. So he has no follow-up question. He's like, oh.
Yeah. And they're really not hybrids.
Well, some of them would be. No. If it's a polar bear and a grizzly bear.
Yeah, it would make it a hybrid if that particular crossbred species could not reproduce.
I guess I don't know if they can or not. I don't know if it's
because
I don't know if it's like a mule
according to science or
not.
whatever, hybrids cannot reproduce. There's crossbred. So like bluegills and pumpkin seeds, they can crossbreed.
And then
that doesn't make them
breed.
a hybrid.
Yeah. So then it would be
because like hybrid muskies cannot spawn.
Right. Well, I'll have to look into that. So like
I think the word hybrid is a more flamboyant word to use than crossbred.
Well, crossbred's too close to inbred. Which, you know. So like a mule would be a hybrid technically, which it is technically because it's a horse and a donkey, and they are sterile, much like the liger.
Correct.
I need to look that up if that's a actual scientific technical thing with hybrids versus crossbreeds.
Yeah. You know,
You
hybrid
right.
bluegill, cool, real thing, but they don't spawn.
What
If
would it
they're
be
real
hybrid with?
hybrids.
Like a crappie?
Huh?
If a real hybrid, would that be a crappie?
That's a crossbred.
I know, but you're saying if there was one that couldn't breed, what would that take? Because any bluegill species, whether it's pumpkin seed or green sunfish, whatever, they're able to spawn, as far as I'm aware.
Making them crossbred.
Right. That's my point. You said if it is a hybrid, then it must be something else, like something within the panfish or sunfish family, but separated enough that they're not viable.
Correct. They were made in a fish farm pond thing.
What would a pumpkin seed rock bass look like?
I don't know. You know, and I've said before on here, and I even told Jimmy Lawrence this once. I said, man, if I ever hit the lottery, you're going to be doing some really weird shit. And he laughed and he said, what's that? I said, I don't know. I'd like a urban camoed walleye. I'd like a,
that'd be so dumb.
you know, or I'd like to take like a bluegill, you know, the colors of the bluegill and paint a northern pike to look like a bluegill. You know, just because I'm eccentric and I have a ton of money.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and then he's like, hey, dude, when you get rich, here's this catalog. And he sent me this link to a place that makes replicas. And for $20,000, I could get a 3-piece, 20-foot orca blank.
Oh, I remember talking about
and I said, that would be painted like a burbot. And I said, Jimmy, if I ever hit the lottery, I'd be like, yo, dude, I'm at the top of the list, and you've got a 3-piece orca coming your way, Doc.
What's the meme? If I win the lottery, I won't tell anybody, but there will be signs.
Definitely. Definitely.
He's ordering the killer whale
that
form.
I would buy that fucking log cabin out in the woods that everybody wants to go to.
And then burn it down?
No, I'd put Wi-Fi in it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know you know what meme I'm talking about?
Oh, the one like, could you live here?
Yeah.
Without
and people
Wi-Fi
are like, oh, I
for
would
a
do it in
year?
a heartbeat if I could. No, you wouldn't.
I would.
I know you would, but I would just go ahead and buy all of those, and I would put in like Wi-Fi and surround sound and all that shit.
There's Starlink now. Elon hook you up.
Did you hear about that Starlink? In Tesla and all that shit with Ukraine war going on?
What, did it crash into the firmament?
No. So Elon Musk sent a bunch of this Starlink stuff over there to help Ukrainians, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
for communication.
Yeah.
He finds out that they're using it to control drones for war. So he took some of them away.
Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah. Which people are like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's his company.
It is his.
Like
after
I said, when there was all this mask requirement shit, you don't own that fucking business. You don't own Menards, dude.
If I can shadow ban you because you post too many gun pictures, or I can straight up ban you because you're posting a gun picture, and then you're mad because somebody's actually using things to kill other people, and then you're mad that I took that away, like your motivations might be a little wonky.
Yeah. Well, I really don't have any dog in the fight because I don't live there and I'm not going through that.
Right.
I just found that was interesting, and part of me wanted to dive onto Twitter just to hunt things down and read the mayhem.
Dude, Twitter's such a shit show.
Oh, it's the best.
Honestly, I didn't get into it till after, and I've had an account for forever, but never used it.
I know a ton of people like that.
And even now I don't use it much, but I've used it more than I ever have once Elon took over. Because I was like, all right, I gotta take a peek into this shit show, and it is a shit show.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know that it's a shit show because of Elon. I think it's the dumpster fire that it always has been. Yeah, and it's not that much different from any other social media, but I don't know why that one platform more than any just brings out the absolute worst in people. Like that's because where they really just say whatever the hell they want, and they troll and they're just mean. Like. And it's so ridiculous. And I don't know what it is, but it does bring, I catch myself, getting ready to mean tweet, and then I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You're getting sucked in. And
nobody knows
Then I delete it. Yeah, then I delete it. Nobody cares.
They're not going to read the non-blue check mark tweet from some fucking guy in the middle.
Doesn't it just take $5 now?
I think so. Something like that.
I could get a blue check mark. Big deal.
Yeah.
Dude, that was one of my favorite things about it. When all these, celebrities and politicians were getting all bent out of shape, I thought you were for freedom of speech. Now I have to pay for. First of all,
you can still tweet without the blue check mark.
It's $5.
Yeah,
you gonna tell me you can't afford $5 a month?
But you can still tweet without
a
fucking blue check mark.
Exactly, and I love but Elon's responses were all brilliant. He's like, "Yeah, I get what you're saying. Give me $5." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that you would feel that way. Now give me my $5."
There's Elon Musk is an interesting character because there's moments where I'm like, God damn, fucking A, dude, that guy is something else. Then there's other moments where it's like, wow, I don't really care for this guy.
Well, he's super weird, but I think he is actually, self-admittedly, he's on the spectrum somewhere. I mean, you almost have to be that, to have his kind of it's a beautiful mind kind of thing going on.
Right.
So yeah, there's going to be some social cues. There's going to be some stuff that just doesn't hit.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's what makes it fun.
But for the most part, I see Elon, and I'm not a super Elon fan. You know, I'm just a voyeur watching from the sidelines, right? But I see people get worked up about him, and then I see people champion, and I'm just kind of like, I don't think he really needs either. But I will say that I'm glad that he exists.
Yeah,
I'm glad that person is out there. You know, driving this kind of weird innovation and doing this shit because who else would, you know?
Right.
And then until the time in which, and likely it will never happen, but if he does something where I think he crosses the line as far as, you know, the point of diminishing return or, you know, hey, this is, you know, now it's intrusive to our private life, or this could be used in a war way, country to country. But I think just what he just did by shutting down those satellites for Ukraine because they're using war, it's I think that tells you that he's not about that. You know, you get the leftist conspiracy theorists that think he's trying to take over the world. It's I really don't think he is.
No.
I think he's just I think I can do this thing, so I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Wouldn't worldwide internet be cool?
And then the whole Starlink thing too is hey man, I don't want my brand to be associated with that.
Right.
You know, I said that over there for them to use to communicate with each other, not communicate to drones.
And it wasn't for the government; it was for the people that are disconnected, you know, losing power.
Yeah, and then the government got a hold of it and used them for, you know, and so it's his brand, it's his company, and he can choose to do what he wants with it.
It's what's the alternative? You don't want him to do that? What are you saying to me right now?
Yeah.
You want him to be pro-war? Is that what you want? Which, not to get political, but right now I'm because there's a Democrat in the White House, it's suddenly war is cool again. It's I thought, aren't you the party that doesn't like war? War's cool now? And it'll flip-flop. I guarantee if a Republican gets in the White House after this, and we're still in Ukraine, I guarantee you're going to have all the Democrats we need to pull out, we need to do this.
We're not even in there.
We are, but we aren't.
We have items in there, but we don't have humans.
That'll stop. Point being, if nothing changes, let's just say we're at the same, in 2 years we're at the same level where we're just feeding them weapons, you know, and the war is still going on. If a Republican gets in there, I guarantee you the roles are just going to reverse.
Mm-hmm.
That the Democrats are going to start bitching that we're sending too much money over there. we need to not be as involved as it just switches. That's the stupid thing about this binary political system that we have. Both sides do the same bullshit. It's like if their guy is in or girl, they can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then conversely, the other team can do no right, no matter what. Like whoever your guy is, if you with cameras on, kicked a baby in the face. If that was your party, you'd be like, well, why wasn't the mother out there? Why was that baby just in the street? There's no reason that baby should have been in the street. That would be the thing.
Right.
You just defend it every time. Like it's so maddening to me. And I'm like an extreme centrist, so I just sit in the middle and just look at both sides. Like, you guys are both idiots.
I'm the same way. What bothers me the most is the, for lack of a better phrase, the idol worship.
Yeah. Oh, and that's exactly what it is.
Like, that's so, in my mind, that is so dangerous. Yeah, extremely dangerous.
I don't know what podcast it was, but I listened to another podcast, and they talked about that, how, like, politics really has turned the corner and kind of has developed into a religion now. Like, the way people just are so fanatic about you just follow what your preacher says.
Yeah.
If they say mask up, I'm double, triple masking. And it's like, oh, you guys are for masks? Well, I for sure am not. Watch me walk into this disease-infested, crowded hallway with no mask, because I'm going to show you I'm not afraid. Yeah. It's like
I'm Brad Pitt from World War Z.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, if it's not your team, you do the complete opposite. And if it's your team, whatever you say, I guess that's what I got to do now.
Yeah, and
because this is my identity.
I find it weird that you're like, I've got to buy a T-shirt and bumper stickers and hats with our president's name on it because I love that person.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Go team. They really should just start making jerseys.
Like,
they should have jerseys. It'd be more honest. And I heard this too. It's like, don't you wish Congress was more like NASCAR, where you could just see who their sponsors were, like right on their sleeve?
I remember seeing a comedy skit about that.
That I'll be wearing the same one. It'd all be
Rockefellers.
No, like who's the big pharmacy company? I can't. Pfizer. They'd all have a giant Pfizer on their back. Both Republicans and Democrats. Every last one of them. Like ExxonMobil and like,
you know what?
You'd have AOC up there telling you how bad the climate change is. She'd turn around and just be like, ExxonMobil.
Right. If I had Pfizer money, it would be fun to be like, I'm going to give $10 million to the Republican Party, and I'm going to give $10 million to the Democratic Party, and just watch the cat fight.
It's pretty much what they do. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty much what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid.
And that's why I go and fish rock bass and bullheads and all that other shit.
I'm not sure I can say that's why I do it, but I would much rather do that than watch any sort of political speech any day of the week.
Yeah.
I'm to the point now, like, and my brother's full on balls deep in it. Like, he just loves politics. And it's like, sometimes I'll say something just to stir the pot and we'll get into a little piss match, and then I usually regret doing that because he always just takes it too far. And then I'm just like, but then he gets mad at me because for most things I'm like, dude, I'm oblivious. I'm up here in northern Minnesota now, and yeah, I can get the internet if I want it, but I'm kind of blissfully ignorant. Like, I pay attention just enough, but I kind of like it like that. I kind of like being in the dark about when someone says, hey, did you hear about? No. Like, and I don't care. But you know how many bass I caught yesterday? It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like, if you find yourself, like, getting real bent out of shape or super negative about the world's just going to shit, and it's actually to the point where it kind of depresses you, you need to unplug.
Oh, 100%.
Because if you just look at your everyday life, you should be at least in this country, you should be pretty goddamn thankful. Like, did you miss a meal today? No, you didn't. Did you drive a relatively new vehicle to work? Probably. Not ever. There's people out there that have, whatever. There's a whole spectrum of people, when it comes to where they are in life. But if you look at Americans as a whole, our poor people are in the top 1% of 1% of the global people when it comes to income.
Oh, yeah.
Like, our poor people are rich compared to most other countries.
Oh, yeah.
So, point being is, like, have that kind of perspective and be like, you think the world's shit? Well, just don't watch the news for, like, 3 days.
Yeah.
And you'll probably start being a lot happier.
Yeah. That's the one thing that bugs me when I go hang out with my parents. We'll be doing something like, oh, everything's got to stop. The nightly news. And I'm like, why are you watching? And I'll just sit there and they'll be like, oh my God, that's awful. Oh my God, that's awful. So why do you guys watch this? Well, we want to know. Like, why do you want to know things that make you feel and say the word awful? Just stop. And even if you know, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So being in the know or blissfully unaware is actually, I think, is a safe thing.
Yeah, I know enough that, like, when it comes time to vote, and I do vote, that it's like, I'm going to have an informed decision, but it doesn't have to be my everyday life. I don't have to be obsessed with it. I don't need to watch it like The Bachelorette.
Obsession leads to skewed views.
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when...
Like my unhealthy obsession with rough fish. I think they're the greatest in the world. That's probably skewed.
Wait, I thought we were working to get rid of that term.
We are.
But look at you, just perpetuating
it. Keeping it alive.
Just keeping
Remember, I'm a
alive.
Nonconformist. Remember, you called me out.
Yeah, but we haven't conformed to that yet, so you should be the one. Like,
I'm only be getting ahead of the game, my friend. Getting ahead of the game.
I'm so ahead of the game, I've come full circle where it looks like I haven't moved.
Correct.
But really, I've gone through the whole cycle.
Yep, I'm way ahead of Congress and everything else.
Yeah, you have no idea the progress I've made.
Hey, man, Tyler Winter is a cool dude.
Hell yeah, he is.
And you know what? I admire his passion and his enthusiasm for helping to protect native species.
You know, I failed, and maybe I'll do it. I need to get back in his ear again because I do want to go catch a buff.
Yeah.
And he's got him relatively dialed in, and
if there's a guy to go sucker fishing with, that's the
dude. And like mentioned today, we're having dinner. Like, dude, on my bucket list is a blue sucker, which there's like a few times of the year where you can actually, like, they're kind of accessible because they love super, super fast water. And I think it's when they're spawning. Everything seems like they're vulnerable when they're spawning, where they kind of change their habits a little bit, where it makes them more accessible.
Yeah, I've never targeted any sucker species in July.
Yeah, I can't say that I have either.
I've seen them.
Yeah. Oh, I see them all the time.
Swimming around in big schools and stuff, but I've never really targeted them.
I've seen schools of red horse, like large schools of red horse.
Yeah, that's quite impressive.
And they'll suspend over deep water, like right at the surface. I don't know what they're doing. And then they just kind of move away from the boat or sink down low, and then they come right back up after you go over the top of them.
Out here on Lake Bemidji, every once in a while, there'll be a huge, I don't know if it's a, what's the biggest sucker species we have here? Is it the white sucker? Or is it the lake?
I bet it's a greater red horse, probably.
Could be the greater red horse. Anyway, you'll see this white thing floating out on the lake. And I've gone, when I had a boat, I remember motoring over to it, and the head of this sucker was, I don't know, probably bigger than a softball. I mean, it was just huge. I was like, damn, I wish I would have caught you. Like, it would have been huge.
That would have been.
In the fall out here, if you're jig wrapping walleyes, and I actually did this to a buddy. We're out there jig wrapping. We go down to River Bar, and I think it was me. I was ripping that jig wrap, and I missed something. I reel it up, and there was this scale about the size of a $50. It was huge.
Gotta be a carp.
It was a sucker.
Really?
Yeah, there's no carp in there. And, there's no carp in Lake Bemidji. Anyway, I mean, I might be exaggerating a bit, but it was a huge scale. It was not from a walleye. It wasn't from a pike or musk. It was from a sucker.
Sure.
And
well, and that's got to be red horse because white suckers have small scales.
And I was like, oh, man, I quickly turned and peeled that scale off. He's like, I think I missed a nice walleye, you know? And he's like, okay, we'll stay. And I was trying to get these suckers, and then he caught one, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. He's like,
is that what you got?
We're out of here. And I was like, oh, and he's like, I knew it. Gotta get out of here.
He's on to you.
But that was a fun fall evening with my buddy TK. We're out there. We probably caught 80 walleyes jig wrapping. That was super fun. It was just like crappie fishing. You just motor around. Oh, here's a big school of them. Fucking pow.
Vertical ripping.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good time.
Yeah, I might try to do some of that this year. Like I told Doug, I was just on Doug Glimmerveen's podcast. I don't know when he's going to release it, but we just recorded it this week. And as people know me, I generally are like, don't fish for walleyes. I think they're boring. But I admitted that this summer I'm probably going to target walleyes a little bit just because I want to guide on Pelican. I was like, and I know that people staying at the resorts up there are going to be like, you ever fish for walleyes? It's like, well, I should probably know enough that if the bite's good, I'll take them out there.
Yeah.
I'm still not trolling because for one, I have a bass boat. It's not set up to do that really anyways. So, but if I can get on a good jig and wrap bite like that or just a casting, dragging jig kind of a bite, I'll do that.
Hey, like I told Crafty, I don't hate walleyes. I just don't pursue them on my own.
Yeah, I just don't get excited about
them. I
them.
don't know enough about them or have cared to know enough about them to be able to go on my own. But man, if I get an invite with a walleye guy, fuck yeah, I'm in.
It's like
my favorite way to fish them, slip floats, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so fun.
Well,
it's like crappie fishing, man.
That's I think that's the inner child in all of us. Anytime you see a bobber go down, I don't care what you're fishing for.
Pure magic.
Just the blood starts pumping.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. I remember the McDonald's commercial, the fillet of fish, when it'd get close to, is it Lent?
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic or Lutheran. So
Lent.
So they would start running the commercials right before Lent, and it was just the bobber, and that thing would go like that and then go down. And that's usually like there's still ice. Like fishing is over, except for panfish is still over, or is still open, but most people have kind of given up on it.
I think Lent is that weird time where it's kind of sketchy to get out on the ice.
I remember as a teenager watching, and that commercial would get me so fired up. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for summer. That image of that bobber going down is all it took for just get me outside my head, man.
I always have a rod rigged up with a slip float all the time. Even if it's a beetle spin bite, I'm like, I'm just going to throw the slip float out because there's just fun.
I don't do it as much as I used to. Now I kind of like just do it like free jigging it and like casting out and swimming a jig back. I like that, but sometimes you got to use it. Sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes you got to use a slip bobber.
Well, I'm hoping not to put too many miles on the old spinning reel this year. I'm just going to continue on with the fly journey.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I just at the end of open water, like one of my last flow tube trips, probably the second to the last one, I was working with my buddy Shane, and he was watching me in my parents' yard, and he's like, don't bring the rod back. You got a faster action rod. So instead of bringing it back to 2, bring it back to about noon. He was like, there it is. Boom. And all of a sudden, boom, that fly line was just boned straight every time. Pow. I could that pop can. Pow. Now I want to learn the double haul. Not that I need it for panfish, but I want to learn it because eventually, yes, I want to start bass fishing and pike. And
what's the double haul?
It's they use it commonly for chucking streamers on weighted line. So it's a timing thing. A haul is when you draw back the rod and you pull your line out, or you pull your line back. So you're drawing in fly line, and then you come back, and when you go forward, you reach back up and
you're stripping it as you cast forward?
Stripping it back so that when that rod goes out, it forces that line out even faster.
I haven't done that. So, I used to be into fly fishing. I got out of it. My stuff is dilapidated as can be. I wouldn't mind getting back into it and having one decent setup. But I took a client out on the St. Croix, and I said, hey, bring the fly rod. And he asked me about it. I'm like, because where I found these fish, they're pretty shallow. I think you stand a pretty good chance of getting one on the fly. He's like, all right. Well, it turned out to be a tough day of fishing, and we barely caught. I think we caught like 3 or 4 on terminal tackle and nothing on the fly. But he brought 2 fly rods as him and a buddy. And he's trying the fly rod. I'm like, you mind if I give that thing a shot? I haven't done this in probably, I don't even know, 15, 20 years. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Strip a bunch of line off it and give it a shot. Now, apparently it's like riding a bike, because I went right back to it, to the point where that guy was like, you're pretty good at that. And I'm like, surprising the hell out of me. I didn't these casts they're going where I want, and I'm getting good distance on it. I was like, God dang, this is like I was shocked the hell out of myself. Which then I really got the bug. I'm like, God, I do need to get back into this. Like this is fun.
Well, we were talking before we fired up here. We were talking about vices. And I said, they're anywhere.
Not like crack, like actual fly tying vices.
Yeah, fly tying vices. And I said, well, you said that was fancy. I said, well, yeah, it's pretty nice. I said it was only like $150. And I said, but you start getting into your Renzettis and your Stefanos and stuff, you're talking $7, $8, $9, $1,000. And you're like, holy shit. And I was like, well, and the same thing holds true for fly rods.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was talking about that YouTuber from Duluth, Gunner. I just watched a video about, he was like, really good, affordable rods to get into streamer fishing for predator fish like bass and pike and muskies. And I completely forgot St. Croix has a small line of fly rods. And actually they used to have a large selection of fly rods, but the Mojo Bass, he was talking about the Mojo Bass fly rods. He said they're phenomenal, really easy to cast. They're $150. The streamer fly rod that I really wanted to purchase was an Echo Streamer X, I think, and I think that one's like $475, and that's on the lower end spectrum of fly rods.
Yeah,
low to mid.
Yeah. If you go into like Fleet Farm or Bass Pro Shops, Bills, whatever, they'll have that like. I can't think of the name of it right now, but they have like a little
Cortland
kit. Yeah, Cortland kit, and it's like $112.
Yeah, Cortland and then Reddington makes a nice little kit too. And there's some cool channels if you're really wanting to get into it, like Mad River Outfitters and Avid Max on YouTube. They're also fly companies. Mad River Outfitters, they'll review the $1,000 Hardies, but they'll also review the $150 Reddington combo. You get a reel. They go through the reel. They're like, dude, if you want to get into fly fishing, this is the way to go. It's it's $120. Might not have the greatest fly line on it, but you're going to be fly fishing.
I just had an idea. So I know one of your goals on the fly rod is to catch a walleye.
Mm-hmm.
So the river that I've been talking about shall not be named.
Mm-hmm.
Like midsummer is supposed to be like great for walleyes in those pools. That would be ideal. He's like, and those pools are like 3-4 feet deep.
Right. Yeah.
And they're allegedly just stacked with Walters. So you could get in there with a streamer.
Oh, dude, that would
leech imitation and probably just crush.
Or a streamer. Anything.
Yeah.
Could probably even get them on topwater.
Maybe.
I've caught a few bass fish and buzzbaits before.
I caught
back in the day.
I caught one walleye in a topwater.
Yeah.
It was at night. It was right out like the cabin on the Crow-Wing River, and these fish were like breaking, So I cast a popper out there, and they kept blowing up on it, but I couldn't hook up. I'm like, yeah, they keep missing it, and then finally hooked up. And I just assuming it was a smallmouth, but when I got my hands on, it was like a 17-inch walleye. I'm like, holy crap! I was like, if the walleyes are there, shit! I grabbed a husky jerk, suspended, and I'm like, and I was working that, they wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
And so I went back to popper, and they kept hitting it, but they just kept missing. Their mouth just isn't designed for that.
Yeah, and that's probably a rare thing for them to do.
For sure. So it was a unique situation. What had happened that year? So like the sandbars, like they shift from year to year on that river, and so the one that year it was super super shallow, and then right as it got to like our property, it dropped off into like 4 feet. So it went from like 8 inches and then just a wall of sand into 4 feet. And I think what they were doing at night, they were just herding those bait fish right up against that wall. So then the only way those bait fish can go is up. So they're attacking them from
like a blue
below.
Whale with krill,
kind of, or a great white on seals down in Africa.
Yeah,
kind of like that. Like they look like they were feeding up. So which is rare for walleyes, but that particular scenario. But it's just weird to me that they wouldn't hit the husky jerk, because you think they'd still be able to silhouette it, but they were dialed into the surface for whatever reason. They just wouldn't touch it. But
no, that's a good idea though. That's a good idea. And then, me personally, the person that I am, be like, yeah, let's get some walleyes. And then I also got some stuff. Let's look for some moon eyes.
It's on my bucket list. I've never caught a moon eye or a gold eye.
I've never caught a gold eye. I've caught quite a few moon eyes. And we actually target them. My buddy does on his fly rod up there.
Really?
On the Bear River, which is pretty close to you.
I don't know where that is.
You know where the Viking Bar is there, don't you? Just north of Side Lake?
No, I never go that way.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, Bear River. It's wild. It's very technical. Those moon eyes, when they come up in surface, and if they miss that fly, he's like, move on. Huh. Don't even. It's one and done. He goes, I've literally spent an hour after a miss or a false rise and nothing.
Crazy. What kind of fly does he use? Like, what are they eating?
Just something that floats on the surface.
Just looks like a bug.
Just looks like a bug. Yeah, they're just moon eyes. But when you catch one, they're really cool, man. They're pretty wild looking.
No, I mean, I've seen plenty of pictures of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
John Seeley just got one that was like 15 some inches.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, John, if that's a moon eye, you're holding a state record. Turned out it was a gold eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it was close, it was the same length, or it was a little bit short of the length of the state record. And I was like, man, you keep an eye out for that stuff, brother.
Speaking of the records, we can talk about that for a little bit. So Minnesota's moving to, they're changing, what are they calling it? Like, they're going to keep the old records, but they're calling it like,
I haven't heard of any of this.
A heritage record or something like that. So basically, because there's a lot of those old records.
Are we handing out fucking congratulations ribbons? Oh.
A little bit, but we're going to move beyond that. It's going to kind of start that way. So basically the
this
motive,
is all new to me, dude.
The motive behind this is that some of these really old records, right? They just seem unattainable. Like nothing has even come close to it. Like the 17-pound walleye out of the Seagull River or whatever.
Yeah.
So those were set back in a time that, like, how regulated was that?
Yeah.
How legit is that weight?
I have my suspicions on a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do. So they're not doing away with them, but they're calling them, like, there was a term, I don't remember, like a legacy record or a historical record or something like that. But now they're going to start a new class, and it's going to be like the modern record or modern verifiable record or whatever the thing is. And they're starting in chunks. And so they're going to set that level where it's still exceptional, like the baseline where you can get your name in the record book. It's still going to be exceptional but attainable. So what you're going to end up seeing is this record is going to get busted a bunch of times for a decade or whatever until it finally reaches kind of like that super upper echelon where that one's probably going to stand for quite some time. You know? And one could say, oh, it's a little like everybody gets a trophy. But what I do like about it is that it kind of reinvigorates like the chase. And it's going to get more people involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think overall it's a good thing. And they're also now going to expand the catch and release record system.
Interesting.
And so each year they're going to start accepting more and more.
Yeah, because currently now it's sturgeon, muskie. Are those the only two?
I'm not sure. It laid it out in this article. I'll try to find it and send it to you.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because like they even said, because there's times that people may have caught the state record, but legally couldn't keep it.
Correct.
To even check. So they just got to release it.
Well, and that's how the the sturgeon catch and release state record, because you can't.
Right.
They're protected.
Correct.
And yeah.
So they're going to, I think that's great that they're going to do a catch and release.
Yeah. Now that you kind of explained it, let's talk about those old records, because I've studied them. I know them pretty well, Well, let's take one of our favorites, the bluegill. That was caught about 9 miles from here. 2 pounds, 13 ounces. And it's Alice Lake. No secret there. It's printed right in the thing. And if you look it up, it's like a wide part of a creek. It's about 7 feet deep. Could it have been? Sure. Sure. I've talked to some people that have actually been in there and fished, and they said there's nothing but bullheads and little pike in there. Could still be some bluegills in there. At the same time, a lot of things have changed since 1943.
Again, I was going to say, like, what year was it set? Like,
1943.
Who knows that beaver ponds or
Something
this
like that.
road or that road or this culvert and that culvert put in.
43 or 46, somewhere in the mid to late 1940s.
Okay. So who knows, like, what that watershed was back then?
At the same time, we don't know much about the angler himself, and I've said it myself. If I was to catch a 2-pound, 15-ounce bluegill, I could tell you exactly where I caught it, and that was Leech Lake, Sucker Bay. Have fun.
Right.
It wasn't from one of these no-name blue dot lakes that could have it.
Yeah. I think there, and again, like, how accurate was the equipment that they waited on? You know, some rusty old
dude. Don't bring up fish and weights, man.
We got weights and fish. Listen. We covered. That's the whole reason Doug had me on, is to kind of revisit that.
Why?
Because one of the guys involved, the short one that just looks like a dirtbag, he's now in other legal trouble for passing off counterfeit $100 bills. Well, not counterfeit. Technically, they're movie $100 bills.
Well, I suppose he's
his
broke
kid
as
too.
Fuck, dude.
Him and his kid, because that's what a piece of shit this guy is. Like, I'm not shocked. Like,
I don't know. I wouldn't say piece of shit. I would say something more like unintelligent.
It's probably a little bit of both, but it's like the dumb criminal thing though. Like, they use their intelligence to get out of work, and half the time to get out of work, they're doing way more work, and they have to just punch that 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to worry about the cops kicking their door in.
Right.
It's like,
so would I be dumbass? Because I came up with this many, many years ago, and maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but I'm going to anyway, because I'll never do it. But, you know, the whole counterfeit thing, I always wanted to do dimes.
Okay.
What security is there on a dime? On any of them, right?
Yeah.
And I chose a dime because they're smaller and thinner than a nickel, twice as much as a nickel, and smaller in material wise than a quarter. So you just mold and cast dimes.
What are you going to make it out of, though?
Well, that's the thing. You got to be smart about it. You got to measure.
Yeah.
You got to weigh an actual silver dime, because when you find an actual silver dime, you're like, this doesn't even feel real because it's super light. You're like, this is made out of fucking aluminum. No, it's not. It's real silver. And then you get your average everyday Joe dime. So you got to weigh those two.
Pocket them.
And then you pick your cheapest materials to get that same weight.
Right.
Then you pour these things.
Well, I think you'd want the most common weight one, like not the real silver one, because you're going to have a better chance of passing those through.
Right. And, you know, I'm not a psychopath and going to fully research any security but I know that they weigh change. That's the security. That's the basic security measurement, right?
Sure.
So the thing of it is about patience and not being greedy. So you get this material, figure out how much it's going to cost you to make $1,000 worth of dimes. So you spend a weekend and you pour $1,000 worth of dimes. But here's where you don't get caught. Don't roll into the bank with $1,000 worth of dimes and try to cash them in.
Right.
Do 2-3 rolls every other couple weeks. Put that money away. It's a slow burn, man. That's how people get caught. They go from driving an 88 Corolla to a fucking Lamborghini in 24 hours.
Again, though, like, the amount of work it's going to take to pull off that scam, just go to work.
But it's not even a scam. It's not even a scam. It's more of a hobby. In my mind, like, I would still go to work. What are you doing this weekend? I'm going to make some jigs. In reality, I'm making fucking counterfeit dimes. You know why?
Like
because I want $100.
Like Curry dropping dimes.
I just want $100 for this week to buy fucking eggs and put a half a tank of gas in my car. I'm not going to try to buy.
Oh, you want to buy a whole dozen eggs? Baller.
Right. I'm not going to try to buy a Ford Raptor in 3 months. No. I think it's movie. It's at least a movie idea, man.
You can have fun with that. I'm not going to help you out.
No, I never asked. I wouldn't. That's the other thing.
Can't have witnesses.
You have to do this shit on your own. You could be like, I got my best friend, man. This guy take a fucking bullet for me. Yeah, but would he take a bullet in the head for you? Probably not. He would do a half-ass dive and hope for one in the hip.
I don't know. You would have to do it right though, because
when
you go dump your change into those counters, you always get stuck with them rando Canadian ones. You're like, God damn it,
don't
Canada.
Counterfeit Canadian coins. Then you're a dumbass.
I'm not saying counterfeit Canadian coins. I'm just saying, like, you have to get that weight and size just right, or they're going to get rejected.
This isn't something for, like, you got yours in one hand, and no, you've got scales.
That's the move. Like, if you did it small, like your trial and error, I think the trial and error is just put them through a change counter.
Yeah.
If a change counter takes it,
fucking good to go,
bro.
But you just gotta have some self-control. This isn't like I'm going to be millionaire rich. This is about like having a little extra money in your pocket.
You could never hit the same change counter twice, because they probably have cameras on them like an ATM. I don't know if they do, but I assume that they do.
So what?
Well, but if somebody's going to start, like, if somebody figures it out, they're like, hey, where did these come from? You're not going to believe this, boss. We got counterfeit dimes in circulation.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a little bit of investigation.
You know what? I hope somebody of some sort of authority hears this and, like, we got to start putting security in our change.
Well, your phone's already listening to you. They're already like, all right, this guy.
Oh, I've talked about it before.
They're like, keep your eye on this guy. Like, as long as he stays under a couple $100, don't sweat him. But if it gets out of control, we might have to make an example out of this guy.
I don't know. The idea came up in college or something. We were talking about counterfeiting at some point, and I came up with this idea. They're like, you know what? It's not that bad. I said, it's not. And like I said, I've always said, this isn't about being able to buy whatever you want because all of a sudden you're this this millionaire. This is about, hey, I can pay my cell phone bill this month, or I can put a little extra gas in the car, or I can buy some T-bones instead of fucking $1 reduced ground chicken.
Extra large eggs.
Correct. It's for the simple things. The
brown ones.
The small pleasures of life. Yeah.
Baller.
Hey, I don't have to go to Dollar Tree this month because I made some dimes. You know what I'm saying? I can hit that target. I can hit the target.
How nervous would you be? Your first purchase with dimes.
I wouldn't be nervous at all.
Because you're just going to have, like, it's not going to be a whole roll of fakies, right? You're going to have, what, 25% in a roll?
No, I'd eventually end up with full rolls of them.
Okay.
But I wouldn't like try to be like buy something at Target with a roll of fucking dimes.
Are you gonna bookend them with real dimes? Because you can kind of see into a roll.
Yeah, but if my molding and casting is accurate, is on, no need to.
Might not have to worry about it. Yeah.
No need to.
Yeah, maybe.
No need to.
Man.
Part of me wants to try it now. No, I don't.
Just to see I
don't want to be. I live in an apartment. I can't be molding and casting weird metals and shit.
Smelting in the apartment.
Yeah. No. That would be a sweet email to Do It Molds though.
Yeah. I think they might know something.
They'd be like, don't worry, man. That's good.
Oh my God, counterfeit dimes.
Yeah.
I think I've heard it all now.
I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. But I just think dimes. A lot of people are like, why dimes? Well, they're the smallest of our change, so that's less cost to make.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, and you're right. They probably don't watch them very closely, but well, that's enough of that. How did we go from records to dimes?
Dude, we've been all over the map.
Well, we haven't even talked about Bigfoot or aliens or...
No. We had talked about Elon Musk, though.
A little
bit. But the records thing.
Yeah.
The records thing. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool now. Now that the way you presented that, I think it's kind of due. It is.
I think
like,
so
like
too.
Our Northern Pike. I've heard stories.
Gotta start legitimizing these records because there is just that giant. Like, is it really?
Our 40, what is it? 46 pounds, 45 pound Northern Pike, Basswood Lake.
Yep.
There's people up there that are like, that's bullshit. there's other people like, yeah.
But there are just some freaks in nature too. You know, every now and again, nature throws a shack, right?
Oh yeah.
Like look at his parents. His parents aren't
Look
giant.
at the dude you caught today, man. The gut on that boy.
I think that might have been self-induced. I don't know. I maybe should have kept that one just for science. Like, what is in here?
We should have nicknamed that one Little Debbie.
That thing was nothing little about that Debbie. That dude was just fat, dude. Like, that's the fattest panfish I've ever seen.
Gotta wonder if it was like a tumor. Like
I said, like it was abnormal. Like it was huge.
I'm not joking around, guys, when I say it. Like, it looked like it ate a Titleist golf ball.
Yeah, like it swallowed one of these microphones. Like it just huge. It was like to the point like I had to stop. I'm like, God, what? Look at this thing. Like,
what? When are they gonna start doing this?
I think it's gonna start maybe as early as next year. I think.
Okay.
They had like a timeline because they were only doing, and I didn't quite understand. I don't know if it was just like a bookkeeping thing or whatever, but like I was on board with the program, but I didn't quite understand why they were only releasing some every, like, okay, this year we're going to start accepting sturgeon, walleyes, lake trout, and
whatever,
largemouth bass, whatever. And then every year they're going to add 4 more to the list, add 4 more to the list, add 4 more to the list, till eventually they have them all. It was like, why don't you just have them all?
Well,
but maybe they don't want to be inundated with
there could be that too.
8 zillion
it could
entries.
It could be a quote unquote prototype. Hey, let's just do 4 and see what kind of response, instead of putting all this time and effort in to do all of them right off the bat. When we don't know, people might be like, I don't give a shit about this. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the Master Angler program. Those of people that do know about it really get into it. There's other people that have been fishing here for 60 years, and they're like, what?
Yeah,
I have no clue.
Well, like I said, I think like the Master Angler ones, I think they need to adjust too, because even like the 10-inch rock bass, that's not that hard.
Well,
I mean, relatively here it's super easy, but even not here, I've caught multiples.
Yeah,
in my life.
It's not just this lake here. I can name off 4 around here.
Like they should
have just as big of ones in them.
Not unattainable, but they should be exceptional. And I just don't feel like a 10 is exceptional. Like even make it 10.5. Like 10 is just like that's so attainable. Like there's probably a 10-inch Rocco swimming in every lake that has rock bass in it.
Yeah.
Like it should be bigger.
Yeah, and I think what is crappie, 15 for a Master Angler?
But that seems legit to me.
I've never caught one. I've come close, but I know people that have several 15s.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I have. Honestly, I can't tell you what my official PB is, because I've caught some big ones where I didn't have anything to measure it with, so I don't even know. Like the one I caught this winter likely could have been a 15, but I'm not one to exaggerate my fish, so I'm like, it's 13, 14, but it was definitely, I've caught 13s, so it was definitely bigger than that. So on the safe side, I go, it's probably 14. But when I go back and I like look at the picture, and then even in my like compared to the hole when I released it, I'm like, and that probably was. Yeah. If it wasn't 15, it was probably damn close. But
I take it back. I haven't caught a 15, but I've caught a 17. Now, let me tell you about the 17.
Jesus.
It was the same lake that I caught that bluegill that's on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It was fall. It was duck season. There were some guys on the other side of the lake that were duck hunting.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really know that they were there until it was too late, because we hear all of a sudden we hear and all of a sudden it was like, oh shit. And we turn around and shot was rattling around in my boat and bouncing off as we were far enough away. Yeah. But I looked up and my bobber was down. So I set the hook and I'm like, I must have drifted into some weeds or something. And here's this huge crappie. But for 17 inches, that thing might have weighed a pound.
It's paper thin.
I'm talking maybe a half inch across the back.
Almost dead.
Almost dead. Like it came in mouth open and like one pectoral fin was kind of moving. Like I don't think she made it to the winter. She was just that old.
There's no way. Yeah.
So I really don't count that one. But I mean, the mouth on that thing was
17 inches is 17 inches.
Was huge.
Yeah.
But like it was so old, like the taxidermist didn't have enough real estate to stretch it out to what a healthy one would have been. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, so, like those crappies, when they get that big, it's the mouth that stands out.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously the height too, but like when you see somebody holding, you're like, that's a bass mouth. Mm-hmm. So I got a buddy down in Oklahoma, and a certain time of year the bigs move in, and he.
Are they blacks or whites? Because the whites, I think, have even a bigger mouth.
I don't remember. They might be whites.
Oklahoma would be whites.
They're probably whites. I think they might be both, but I don't know. But he's holding like legit 3-pounders. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen him on the scale, like a 3-pound crappie, and it's a bass. Like you're just like, holy shit, that's a big fish.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember my parents took me. And a fishing buddy from high school took us over to Hayward, to the Fishing Hall of Fame. Super cool place, man. And I was such a fish head back then. And I remember seeing the outline of the world record black crappie. That sumbitch was 26 inches.
Oh, my God. What?
And was caught in Louisiana. I'll never forget that.
What?
26.
No.
Yes.
Really? Dude,
I've got a tape measure right here.
Bro, think of the 17-incher you caught, and then add 11 inches to that.
26. Oh my God. 2'2", baby.
That thing would be.
It was huge.
18 inches tall.
And it was caught in Louisiana, which is totally pliable.
Plausible.
It
probably was somewhat pliable too.
There again, when we were talking about records, our black crappie, 5 pounds, Vermilion River. Down in the Vermilion River, I believe, is down by like Zimbrota.
No, Hastings. It dumps into the Mississippi right around Hastings.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
I'm
thinking of something else.
Runs through Farmington.
Okay.
Has trout in it. Has big trout in it, actually.
Yeah.
Big browns.
But supposedly that's where it came from. There again, though, I play to my brain. I catch a 5-pound crappie. Well, it didn't come out of this. Vermilion River. Vermilion River. That's where I was at.
Yeah, Nunya.
Yeah.
Wish you knew.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Dog leg.
Yeah. Where'd you catch it? Long Lake.
Zipper.
Round Lake. Mud Lake.
Big Lake.
I could even say Pelican. If I catch one out of Pelican, I'd be like, where'd you catch it? Pelican Lake.
Yeah, there's a few of those around.
Brainerd.
Right. So yeah,
Monticello.
That's where I question.
At least I'm only half lying then.
Some people, are protective of their public water.
Well, I think,
and we've all done it even when it's not records. Like, dude, where'd you get all them fish?
I think
them over here.
You should be able to. I wouldn't mind if they actually made it voluntary to list it, because if you can verify, I mean, you would have to tell the DNR, and they would have to verify it, right? Just to verify that it didn't come out. You didn't raise this thing in a pond with fish food, right? There'd be some way of testing it. Like, okay, we need to know where you caught it, but we won't. If you don't wish us to list where, we won't. But we just to verify the record, we have to verify where it came from.
And you know what? I don't even think it really needs to be listed. Period.
Yeah,
because it's not about the lake; it's about the fish.
Right.
So who really cares about the lake?
Yeah, well, I think if you're in the tourism industry, I think you would want it listed if it was on your lake, because people are going to then flood that area. But that's the reason why people then don't want to say it, because here's the problem. Sure, on a big lake, like any of the pelicans or even a Bemidji or Leech or whatever, they're big enough, right? They can handle the additional pressure. Yeah, big deal. But if you did catch it out of some small little pothole and word got out, that thing would be toast.
Well, and one could also argue in the fact too that you brought it up before. Maybe there was only one Giganto.
Yeah, possible.
Freak genetic mutation.
People are still going to kill that body of water, even if, let's say, you caught the shack of crappies, right? You caught a 23-inch crappie out of this little tiny lake. What, like a 1,000-acre lake or something, right? People are going to flock to it, and they're going to try to get one. And maybe the upper end of the average is 13. They're still keeping all of those 12s and 13s.
Oh, yeah. They're decimated.
They're going to rape it. Like, they just are. So your small water is still going to get destroyed. Like,
right.
Yeah, I would either not list it, or I would have to say it came from somewhere else too. If it was one of those, I would say fragile water, watersheds, I wouldn't do that to it. Like,
that would be cool though if they did offer that option.
Yeah,
if you did catch a state record, be like, well, We just want to verify it, so we'll do some autopsy type.
Yeah, and I think
work.
if you were honest with like the CO, you'd be like, hey, I want to list this, and I'm going to show you exactly. I'll bring you right to where I caught it, but I don't want it listed
just because
you and I both know what will happen.
Right, you'll be down here full time.
Yeah,
making sure people aren't taking more than their limits and
exactly.
all that kind of shit.
If that means that we either don't list it or you back up my line, we pick the lake we're going to put on here.
So now we've gone from counterfeiting to bribing officers of the law.
That's not a bribe. but I think they would probably. I think there's no money exchange. I think they would be like, yeah, you're right. They'll destroy this if word gets out. So that probably is the play.
I think so.
Yeah. And I think as long as you're straight with the conservation officer, then I bet there's not going to be a problem.
Oh no, I don't think so either. I know that's been in my playbook.
No, if I legitly did catch it in Leech Lake, then I would just say Leech Lake because I know it's big enough to.
Yeah,
it's fine. Knock yourself out.
Good luck.
Yeah,
needle in a haystack, brother. Yeah. I just happened to find it.
Right.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Knock
yourself out.
I've always said too, when it comes to bluegill, maybe even crappie, if a new state record of those is gonna happen, it's gonna come from somebody dragging a crawler in 21 feet of water in fucking July.
Yeah, or
off a weed line,
trolling shad wraps over 35 feet suspended and just hook into a.
It's not going to be from
bluegill.
Some die-hard enthusiast bluegill head. Nope, it's not going to be that guy.
I found so I watched this video recently, and it caught my attention because it said Pelican Lake. And I clicked on it, YouTube, just to see if it was this Pelican Lake, or I assumed it was like Brainerd or something. Sure enough, it was Orr. I was like, okay, let's watch this. Let's see what this guy, the title of it was like Big Bluegills. All right.
Used to.
When you run into Orr, there's a giant statue of bluegills. It's home of the giant bluegill.
Yeah,
right?
There used to be lots of big ones.
It's just not, it hasn't been that in a really, really long time. So this particular video.
Well, that's what happens when you put a statue of a giant bluegill.
Kind of. Without throwing shade at the gentleman that made this video, let's just say I scratched my head quite a few times watching it. Like, what are you doing? But hey, he had fun. He made a video. It was cool. One of the cool things about the video was he was using an underwater camera on a couple of his things, and he checked out the deep edge of one of these reefs just to see what was down there and get some footage. It was really cool. Well, the one good thing I took away from that video, I saw some pretty impressive bluegills. And the time of year that he was fishing that lake, I would not have looked on a deep rock reef for bluegills, which tells me I need to start looking at deep rock reefs for bluegills, because that's probably where the better ones are in. And so even with the crappies, like this winter, I've been up there ice fishing. I've caught nice crappies up there that I haven't found in the summertime, and I'm like, where the hell have these been? Like I got my like milk run spots. Like I just want to go catch some crappies to eat. I know right where I can go and I can catch some. But they're, a big one would be 11. Mm-hmm. That would be a big one. Like, if you get a bunch of 9s to 10s, that we're eating those, right? But I'm catching 12s. I'm like, where the hell are these things living? Well, they're obviously somewhere. I don't know if they're just roaming the basin or what they're doing, but now my brain's going, all right, we got a little more of this puzzle to figure out. I feel like I know that lake pretty good, but I know that lake as it pertains to bass.
Right.
When it really comes down to it, that's like.
I've been down that thought road many times, and I have my own theory, and I think I've talked to you about it. The whole, creature comforts. They're kind of solo creatures. They're close to their food source. They like shade. They like cooler water. I think the bigger fish do. Especially, we're talking about bluegills here. Mm-hmm. They're not in with the regular stuff. I call that the playground effect. Like they're not going to be running around with a bunch of 7 to 8 inchers. Yeah. That's annoying. They don't like a whole lot of movement. They're kind of like goblins.
I think when they get to that upper echelon, they become a different creature.
Yes. And I've kind of taken that back living around here in muskie country. These guys are chasing 55 to 60-inch muskies, and they'll fish months without a bite. But they know where they are. They're just waiting for them, and they're fishing them a lot at night. They're fishing them in a lot of weird spots that you wouldn't normally fish them because they've had them rise up.
Well, those musky fishermen are obsessive about moon phases, too.
As much as I laugh about them and give them shit about it, that can be applied to giant bluegills and giant crappies because they are, I believe, just like you, a different critter. A 13-inch bluegill is a different beast than a 10 or 11-inch bluegill.
Right.
And those are big bluegills. We can catch them around here. It's not common.
Right.
We get excited about it. But if you were to get an 11 down in the metro, that's wild. That's intense.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a unicorn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that whole different thing. So when you said, this deep rock ledge, I was like, yeah, makes sense to me. They have the available calories that they need to sustain their mass. They're probably eating crayfish. You're probably not going to want to use some little ice fishing jig in a little tiny plastic. Like my uncle's lake that I've talked about. I fish that normally in the summertime with 1/8 ounce jigs and 2 to 3 inch plastics, and I can catch 10.5s and 11s. My biggest is 11 and 3/8. Well, I'm using big baits. Watch TLC, My 600-Pound Life. They don't order a small pizza, do they? I hate to say that. But I mean, it's a good analogy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And if you look at like big crappies, like truly, north of 15 inches, like that mouth, like we just talked about, that thing's eating shad, or shiners. Like that thing's not sipping.
They'll eat light pike minnows.
Yeah, they're eating the big dogs.
I can remember trolling crankbaits on little sturgeon for walleyes and catching 13 and 14-inch crappies on jointed rapalas, that are 3-4 inches long.
I've actually read articles about targeting summertime bluegills with small crankbaits.
Crafty does it.
Does he?
Mm-hmm. It's super fun. He either pitches them, and I'm not talking like the micro crankbaits, but I'm talking like a size, what would it be, 3 Shad Rap? Not the ultralight Shad Rap, but a little bit bigger. Absolutely.
Yeah, I caught a big bluegill. We didn't measure it. I don't know what it was. It was big. On Vermilion, this was back when I actually did try to catch walleyes when I was with my buddy that loved to catch. The same one with the rock bass stories, the same guy, same trip. And we're out trolling and we're just trolling shad raps. Kind of pie plate on it. Like holy crap. And we're in like 25 feet of water.
Yeah. It's pretty common down south, those spider rigs that they have on those crappie boats. They're trolling bass-sized crankbaits.
Damn.
Well,
when there's 3-pound crappies.
Well, and they're catching pound-sized crappies.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. A 12-inch crappie has a decent-sized mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, so
it's not meant for eating bugs. Like that's a fish-eating mouth.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of people are afraid of the ratio that goes along with that. When you're pitching big baits for big panfish, your bite ratio goes way down.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's bluegills or crappies, you're not, with a smaller bait, you may be able to catch 25, but if you upsize that bait, you might only catch 6, but they're going to be the big dogs.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones you want.
And
a lot of times, and we've all been here, no matter what you're fishing with, like if you go to a bigger size bait, a lot of times you continue to catch the little ones.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I was a teen, that was kind of like I always went smaller versus larger because I was like, I had the FOMO, right? I didn't want to go out there and not catch. I'd rather catch some small fish than catch 0 fish, you know.
Right.
So I would err on the smaller size. It wasn't honestly till I started dipping my toes into the musky world, where I started throwing these big baits, and I was still catching I'd catch like a 12-inch bass on a 12-inch musky lure,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, what the heck? And so then like the wheels and the brain started turning. You're like, I'm really not denying myself that many other fish by throwing something bigger, but I'm definitely upping my chances of catching a bigger fish than if I just continue to throw this micro stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's, and sometimes now I know, like, not to go off on too big of a tangent, but sometimes you got to go big just to trigger a bite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even on a smaller fish, like they're not in the mood, but you throw something god awful gaudy down there, and next thing you know, I don't know why they hit it, but they do. Like, it's just a reaction strike.
I'm kind of predicting that tomorrow will be a spoon bite.
Yeah, you weren't really getting them today on the spoons.
No.
I didn't even try it.
Yeah, I got a couple, but they definitely a lot more lookers.
I had to change jigs today, though. I can't believe you haven't called me out on this yet.
I want to be your friend, man. You know, you're crashing here in the Goblin's Den, and I don't have a lock on my door, and
that, and I don't care.
No, it happens.
It's not the
but
first.
it was a prime. I mean, if the table was turned, you would have said the same thing.
I would have called you out for your crappy
What did I yell at you?
I don't remember.
Did I call you an amateur or a hack? That's what it was. Oh, big tournament fisherman, but you're just a fucking hack.
Yeah. So I had a knot fail, but technically it wasn't the knot. Like, I thought, my line just busted. I'm like, oh, I should have checked, because usually I'm pretty good about checking if I have any frays on there, especially after where we're fishing.
Yeah.
In the jungle with sticks and stuff. That's what I assumed. But when I looked at it, the knot was still on the end of my line, but the loop that goes in the eyelet somehow, that's what failed.
Yeah.
So it's technically not my knot.
No.
But
when you said knot, I was just like, here's a prime opportunity.
But I've had knots fail. I'm not going to lie and say I haven't.
Shit, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit, I lost a jig. I lost two, I think.
Yeah, but yours like popped off way away from the jig.
Yeah, which was really weird.
Kind of weird.
At the same time, I fully admit I don't, in the fall, I don't buy 16 spools of 3-pound mono.
Yeah.
And put all fresh new shit on there because I'm like, I'm vertically jigging. I just strip off some and call it good.
I didn't put any new line on this year because I wasn't fishing tournaments. If I was going to fish tournaments this year, I still would have.
Yeah.
I would, because you just don't want to leave anything to chance. But I knew I wasn't really fishing in this year, so I'm like, it's good enough. Yeah. But I'll change it next year. Hopefully I'm fishing tournaments again next year. But if for some reason I'm not, I'm still going to change my line. I'm not going to go 2 years without changing my line out.
But yeah, the whole monster fish hunting thing, I've talked with Crafty about it before, and it's hard to get him to go on one of these monster quests because he's got 3 kids now, and he's a busy dude. So he likes to just if he can get out there when the opportunity presents itself, he wants to maximize it. So I get it. So a lot of times if I go monster hunting like on my own in the summertime with the float tube, I leave here and I've already told myself we're going to have a 0-hit day.
Yeah.
But that one time, that's what I'm after. Kind of like I compare it to the Bigfoot hunters.
Yeah, you got to be willing to take an L.
Oh yeah, and the Bigfoot hunters, they take L's.
Nothing but, actually.
Yeah. Oh well, hold up. We're not gonna go there. But I'm just saying, they might have that moment where they might have 1,000 L's, but you know what? The one that counts is when you get the W.
All right. Well, I'll be waiting. Listen, I want them to find it.
I don't want to talk about it.
They're just not gonna.
You're trying to bait me in, and I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about giant fish.
We do still need to plan an Erie trip.
I know.
I'm dead.
I don't know if I want
to
go there with the dark cloud of fish and weights and fish.
Oh, whatever.
They would call out a couple of weirdo rock bass dudes from Minnesota.
No, they would.
They'd be like, "Why did you come all the way? That's so bizarre."
We gotta get it certified. We're gonna have it checked out. It'll be.
Could you imagine a 17-inch rock bass?
Jesus.
Because the world record's 16.
Look at our eyes when we hit one north of 11 today. We're just like, oh my god.
I thought we were gonna touch tips.
Now, listen, you had another 6 inches, and we will touch tips
We're fishing. Our holes were close together. Our fish holes, people, were close together. They got to be. This is combat fishing. Very strategic stuff.
It's a small piece of structure that's holding all of the fish. So it's a weird spot because you drill one hole and you're like, you put the Vex there, you're like, well, we're not getting through here.
Nope.
You slide over a foot and, yep, this will work.
Foot, 8 inches sometimes. And you got to kind of be careful when you're walking around because it's not like they're spread out there. Well,
there was a few times where I got up and then like I went to go take a step backwards, and thankfully I did have the presence of mind. I was like, oh, is there?
Oh, yeah.
And there wasn't one behind me, but I was half expecting me like to get almost step into a hole.
Well, I look over after.
And you got the 8-inch augers. So I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm unhooking a big rock bass and I throw him down the hole. I look over and my rod, the reel is in the water. The butt end of the rod is on the other side of the hole. I was like,
you almost threw one in the hole.
Yeah, a couple of times.
When we went to go measure one of your fish, I came over and you just like, you set it down and like it hit like 2 inches from that hole butt first. I was like, that one almost went.
Yeah, but I had the line on the other end.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting. But yeah, I like going on monster quests.
We had one for sure double today. Did we have two? Did we have more than one?
I think we just had one double.
Yeah,
just
one legit.
Double.
I mean, there was a bunch where like I pulled one up and I'm putting mine back as you're reeling one up. But.
Yeah, but I think one of the coolest moments of today was the twins at the end.
Yeah, we did.
Which was our double.
It was. No, it wasn't. Because I said, hold on to that one. I got a nice one on right now too.
Oh, I was still trying to get him unhooked.
And then I set the hook on one.
It was like a 3mm jig, and it went up and rehooked back in. Like I couldn't get it out.
Oh wow!
So I just snapped the line and was like, "Oh, you got a piercing there, Rockstar," and I threw him back. I couldn't get it out.
We took a picture of that one.
Yeah, the twins.
The twinsies. They were. Yours was 11, mine was 11, like right on the nuts.
Bam.
Yeah.
Stamped out.
That was sweet. That was a good way to end the night.
Which is good to know that they weren't the same fish.
Right.
Because there are some times I've been out there and I've literally caught upwards of 80 of them. And I know that a couple, a small percentage of those were repeat fish. In an hour and a half time.
Start clipping fins.
Yeah. But
find out. I don't know. I think there's more fish down there than you think.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of people are like, oh, that's the same fish. I'm like, yeah, probably not.
No. If you want, we can bring the Aquaview tomorrow.
I think that we should. I think that'd be fun.
I've never looked at it. I refuse to.
Why?
Because I've looked at it so much on my Vex that I have it like drawn out in my head, and I'm afraid that if I look at it, it's just going to fuck everything up, and I'm going to have a hard time fishing it.
Does yours have the memory card in it? Can you record on it?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do that. I want footage.
Mine doesn't have a memory card. It's got built-in memory.
Oh, okay. But you can get the footage off it, obviously.
Yeah.
No, I want to look at this. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Be pretty gnarly. But yeah.
That'd be badass.
It would be badass. But yeah, if I know a few good bass lakes up that way besides Pelican that's just west of you there and whatnot. If you ever need some new waves to look at, holler at your boy. I mean, I grew up not that far from there.
Yeah,
so.
I have. I mean, it's going to be hard to get me off of that lake. For one, because I pretty much fish that lake the same time every year. So I'm going to have a lot of learning to do. Like, where are these fish going to be ice out? Where are these fish going to be pre-spawn, spawn? I mean, I pretty much know where their spawning spots are, but like
Pelican's not a small lake up there either.
No, it's a good size lake. When I was up there, I had a hard time finding them late fall. Like I had some really good fall days, and then all of a sudden when it got real late, I'm like, dude, they just poof. Like I'm like, where did these fish go? And I took a couple L's out there. A couple times I went out, I didn't catch a single fish. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I have no idea where these fish
kind of like the sheep's head up on Black Duck Lake north here. I want to catch one of those through the ice. The smallest one I've ever caught out of there was like 24 inches.
Dude, that'd be so much fun.
I've talked to guys that dark house spear. Those are always my first guys to talk to, because they see stuff. They see everything that's in that lake.
Yeah,
and they'll be the first ones to tell you. See all these guys fishing walleyes in like 25 feet of water?
Yeah, right.
If they just come up here about an hour after dark, you can get your 10-pounder.
Right.
They've never seen one swim through the hole. You know, I've talked to guys that crappie fish, no bycatches. You know, do they have some secret passage door under the island up there that they go into in the winter? Do they lay on their sides on the bottom and just wait?
They just don't move much? You know, maybe they
do they suspend?
Yeah, man.
And just cruise around? I have no idea.
Yeah,
but there would be a good case for, all right, I'm calling all the homies that have live scope and snowmobiles.
We're going to grid this lake, and we're going to find these fish.
This is going to be Pentagon style type shit. We are not even going to bring out a rod until we see something.
You need to get that underwater drone. Thing's got like a 75-foot tether on it.
Yeah.
Swim that thing around.
But I could only imagine. You'd have to use like a lake trout rod.
You need one with backbone. I know the guys.
And then you ain't pulling them through an 8-inch hole.
So they caught some down when we were at. Oh no, it wasn't down there. They said they were fishing somewhere else. But the Crappie Chronicle boys were down at that Roberts Lake. When we had the Future Anglers of Minnesota clinic a few weeks back, and so I was talking to them, and they showed me a couple pictures of some pretty nice. I think 2 sheephead were caught. Like I can't remember what lake they said they were on, but I'm like, dude, sheephead through the ice. I was like, that's so dope. He's like, oh, dude, if we go there right now, I guarantee you we'll catch one. I was like, if I had the time.
Well, they catch small ones every once in a while up on Upper Red. Every once in a while.
Through the ice?
Yeah.
Dang.
Just, it's kind of, you know, you might
Real
get a dozen of them
miss.
through the winter. Somebody will be like, I don't know what the hell this is. Here's a funny story. My uncle, him and his wife went up there. It was a gift for Christmas from another relative. His buddy runs a guide service up there. So he got him a night stay. And so I helped Tom out. He asked me, hey, man, we're going up here. I was like, okay, you're going to need this and that. And I said, I'm going to warn you, we're after New Year's now. It's not going to be good fishing for walleyes. I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm more than likely right. It's pretty tough. It's a shallow lake. And then once it gets so much ice, it just turns to shit. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's texting me, and he's like, man, we've caught a burbot and a perch, and that was about it. And then, like, the next day he texts me. He sends me a picture of this fish that's on newspaper going, what is this? I was like, hold up. First of all,
you're like, that's the state fish, bro. You can't keep those.
It's a moon eye, and you're about to fillet a moon eye, which, talk about Bone City. You ain't going to get much meat off that, dude. I don't know anybody that eats moon eye. I would assume that if you wanted to, you'd have to go about it like a whitefish and just smoke the thing.
I think I found, didn't I share it with you? Maybe I didn't. I found this at the radio station I work with, which is a tribal community radio station. There is a cookbook by an indigenous chef, and in there is, I think it's a baked goldeye recipe.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, gnarly.
Yeah. I was like,
you have to share that with me. But I said, why is it on your cutting board if you don't know what it is? Well, it's a fish. I'm like, well, you are correct.
What if there was a season on
I
it?
said, Tom, I'm glad you're not a big game hunter. That's all I got to say. I said, it's a moon eye, my guy. And you're probably not going to want to fillet that.
Glad you're not a mushroom hunter.
Even better. I should have thought of that.
Hey, what's this? I'm frying it up in butter right now.
Might want to take the rest of the day off, or you might want to call some family.
I'd call 9-1 and just have your finger on the other one just in case.
Yep. That was kind of funny. I mean, he wasn't breaking the law or nothing, but it was just kind of like, hey man, I've killed this thing. Yeah. What is it?
You see that a lot with duck hunters, and boy, do they get raked over the coals.
Oh, I bet.
On the social media posts.
Why would you even do that?
What kind of duck is this? Like, well, first of all, you should learn to ID them on the wing. Here's the thing, though. If you're a novice hunter,
it's hard.
You'll never learn on the wing.
No.
Because how are you going to confirm if you're right or wrong? And there's only a handful of ducks out there where the limit is like 1 or 2,
or none.
Or none. That doesn't usually happen. But
are grebes still a no-no?
No, yeah, you can't shoot grebes.
Yeah, and those can be confused for teal pretty quick.
Yeah, they're could
small.
Be, but they don't fly much, to be honest. Like,
right.
I mean, obviously they.
I know very little about duck hunting.
Yeah,
I just know a handful
it doesn't.
of things.
Like, I haven't even really heard of any instances of that happening. I'm sure it has, but generally speaking, like it's really not that big of a deal if you shoot something and you don't know what it is. Like I also understand people's knee-jerk reaction to say like you can't just be killing stuff if you don't know what it is. But how are you going to learn? Like getting a bird in hand, I'm like, oh, that's what a pintail looks like. Now I know. Like there's only one way to learn that. You know?
And
like,
you instantly reflect back. Okay, it sounded like this. If you're really into it.
Yeah, it flew like this. They do all have characteristics, once you start looking at the finer minutia of birds. But it comes with experience. And you're not really helping anybody by ripping them a new asshole, chasing them out of the sport because you're just a dick,
Yeah.
The correct way to have that conversation is like, that is... fill in the blank here, duck. This is how you identify it. I would just be careful in the future, to do what you can to learn how to ID them on the wing, because it could be easy to get over your limit, and then you're looking at a ticket. You don't need to be like, hey, dumbass. Don't like there's a better way to voice that.
Yeah. Look at this huge grouse with a white head and yellow talons. What a rarity.
I had no idea they got that big. I thought they drummed on logs. This one was just sitting on a road-killed deer. I was able to drive right up to it. It was the craziest thing.
Odd place for a giant freak grouse to be drumming.
Yeah.
So I popped him.
Look at this piebald grouse.
Then you call that out. I think you call that out.
I don't think so. I think you're like, dude, that's got to be a record. You need to post that. You need to bring that to the DNR to get that officially weighed.
Posted. I would call that out.
Call the DNR. You got to get that officially weighed. You got to get that that is a record, dude. You are on a record.
A national record.
Yeah.
At
dude,
that.
You know how, dude, you're going to be on all the magazines, which isn't a lie. Dude, you are going to be so famous.
Well, and the little bit of duck hunting that I've done over, in the past and stuff like that, and I would love to duck hunt. It's just too late in the game now. Back when I was doing it, we could still use lead, and it was fairly inexpensive. But much like everything else, and as time goes on, it gets more expensive. But I've always thought they were really cool. I mean, super birds, like, especially when you get out the ocean ducks, like these king eiders and stuff. Oh my God, dude, those are just gorgeous. But
dude, they're so commonplace. Like, one of the prettiest ducks ever, and the only reason they don't get like the spotlight as much as they should is because they're so common. But like a fully plumed out Drake wood duck is, who painted that?
Yeah,
what the shit is that thing? Like
the bluegill of ducks.
But we just see them all the time, so you're like, oh, it's a wood duck. No, dude, like, if we didn't have them here, like, some other country that doesn't have wood ducks is probably looking at wood ducks like, dude, bucket list. Look at those things. They are crazy, dude. They're so pretty.
Oh, yeah.
But we have them. They're just like,
and like...
So it's the sea ducks that we don't really get here in Minnesota. We're like, dude, look at that eider.
Yeah.
But those things are so common. Like, the common eider, aptly named. If you go to the East Coast, you go to Boston, you get anywhere near the ocean, you will see eiders.
Huh.
They're mallards out there, dude. They're everywhere.
I suppose.
And I guarantee you, they're like, yeah, it's an eider. Big deal.
I suppose when the loons fly south from here,
But they don't look anything like that, though, down south. They turn brown, loons.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And that's what I was getting.
And they don't call. They're silent.
Fuck. I wish it was the opposite. I don't mind hearing that first loon call just to let me know summer has begun.
I love loons.
Then after that, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. The weekend warrior wants to relax.
I never get tired of it.
Like, hey, dude, text each other. Fucking text, man. Live in the modern day. But like loons, they shoot them fuckers down in Mexico.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can kill bald eagles in Ireland. Absolutely. It's not a globally protected bird.
No, that's true. But why are people killing eagles? I don't think
they probably eat them.
Oh, God.
What do you mean?
Because they eat fish. Most fish-eating, like the fish-eating ducks, your mergansers, they're not the best table fare.
Probably not, and they give you swimmer's itch.
I don't know about that, but
That's what I've heard. That
eating them?
No, not eating them, but they're the ones that distribute swimmer's witch
that
in
parasite
the water.
or whatever
that
it is?
parasite, yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Which Crafty got a bad case of that when he float tubed Mille Lacs for smallmouth. He made a YouTube video about it. But I remember him calling me when I was driving home. He was. And he was like, dude, my legs and crotch, I want to douse them with gas instead of match, dude. I'm like, what's wrong, dude? He's like, I got swimmer's itch. I'm like, oh, shit. And he's like, I'm trying to. And the drive from Bemidji to Mille Lacs is not a short drive.
No.
And he was fucking miserable.
That's what I always think when I see his post and he fishes Mille Lacs a lot. I'm like, dude, you make that drive like every weekend?
Their family has a cabin down there.
I mean,
so they go down. Okay. He'll go down there and stay for like a week or
all right. Well, that's not as bad, but
not. It's like
it
was his grandma and grandpa's place.
I don't really get the draw of that lake. I'm being completely honest. Like,
I like going down there because I've only fished it like 3 times my whole life. And I've gone with him all 3 times.
I do think it's getting better. Mm-hmm. Like, and talking with the guides down there, like more and more perch. Like it's been a pretty good perch bite this year. Like the jumbo, like 12 inchers.
Another lake closer to here is starting to do that same thing with the jumbo perch, and that's leech.
Well, and the eel pout are coming back. So I remember back in like late 80s, early 90s through the mid 90s, like eel pout were everywhere. And this back, we used to just toss them on the ice. Mm-hmm. Like I think we completely played a role in the recovery of bald eagles in the state just due to feeding them copious amounts of eel pout because they just discarded them. But they used to be everywhere. And then they disappeared for like 20 years. And now people are starting to catch them again. So this whole thing, like mismanagement, if you want to call it, if that's what it was, whatever the thing that was kind of like crashed Mille Lacs, where now we're down to like sometimes you can keep one walleye and whatever. I think we're coming out of it. And my opinion, and I've said this multiple times, but I think the canary in the coal mine are the perch and the eel pout. Whatever made them disappear, that was the problem. Like, and I don't know if that's a forage base, spawning thing. I don't know what. I feel like if you studied that, I think you would find the smoking gun, and then you could come up with the right management. You know, what needs to be done. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? But now that we're starting to see, and what we're not seeing, if you put a camera down in Mille Lacs, you're not seeing these just massive hordes of 3-4 inch perch. There's still some around, but they're not like it was before. Like those ones are growing up.
And you say the burbot are coming back
yeah,
down there?
You're starting to, like not a lot, not as much as the perch, but you're like I would say 3 years ago, somebody caught a burbot that I heard about. I'm sure it happened before that, and now like last year I heard of a few more. This year I'm hearing a few more, so I think their numbers are coming back too.
See, that's funny, and this is just a quick off the cuff hypothesis. The same thing's happening with Leech Lake. The perch are starting to get bigger. There's not as many little ones. In conjunction with that, the Eel Pout Festival has not been a thing for a while.
Oh, sure.
And prior to even that, there was still the Eel Pout Festival, but it was a big, giant kill tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started like realizing, like, you know what? Maybe it's a bad thing to take these out, because as much as people want to say that burbot are bottom feeders, they are a predatory fish.
Right.
Their mouth points forward. They attack live bait.
Mm-hmm. Eat a lot of crayfish. Young of the year perch. And crayfish eat a lot of fish eggs.
Correct. So I find that interesting that both of these lakes are starting to grow bigger perch. And now, you know, it's just taking Mille Lacs longer. You can't like Lake of the Woods, you know, just pitch burbot out on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I wonder if that, you know, just a wild guess in the dark here, that maybe that smoking gun, that canary in the coal mine, as you say, could have been the burbot.
Yeah, maybe it was a population crash where the population got so low that it couldn't really sustain itself, and then they're not down there eating crayfish or eating whatever, maybe snails or God knows what else, and then that affected the perch spawn or perch eggs, or who knows, or maybe something even further down the line. I mean, maybe that had a cascading effect to some sort of zooplankton or some sort of bug or whatever, that something at the very beginning of like the food chain got thrown out of whack, and now it's just that they've been able to reproduce, and maybe they're starting to get a foothold, and maybe they're balancing that thing out again. And of course, you throw in, it's probably multiple factors too, right? Then you throw in zebra mussels, which are a relatively new introduction to, like, that happened after kind of the walleye population crashed. I feel like it had. I could be wrong about that, but I think it kind of happened after. And so that probably kind of threw a loop into things. But now that's also backed off, because that's what they're kind of finding with zebra mussels. When they get into a new watershed, they take over because they don't have any competition. They clean up the water, for better or for worse. They make it, they filter all that stuff out. But then there's a mass die-off. Yes. Because they literally eat themselves out of house and home.
The zebra mussel thing was very much a bomb cyclone or bomb whatever that
bomb cyclone
type scenario, like, oh shit, there's zebra, oh my god, there goes the everybody relax.
Short term, it balances out.
Yeah, it will. I mentioned earlier Black Duck Lake and the Sheep's Head. You can bow fish them up there. There's no limit on that. And I've always said, I don't ever want to take somebody's hobby away. I don't want to see bow fishing disappear. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say when, there's a 32-incher with an arrow stuck through it that I'm not a little bit butthurt, heartbroken. Like, man, if you would have felt that on a rod and reel, I think you would have been changed person a little bit.
You could say same about spearing a 40-inch northern.
Correct, absolutely. But I don't ever want to take that away. But at the same time, I really think, like, if you were to exterminate the sheep's head that are in that lake, which is an oddity for that size of a lake, to have that big a sheep's head
that far north,
that could fuck up the entire ecosystem. And that thing might not kick out 12-inch bluegills like it does once in a while.
And they do eat zebra mussels.
Sheeps? Yeah.
Because it was one of those things, like, they kind of had to figure it out as a food source, and some of the diving ducks have now figured out that they're a good food source because they actually have relatively softer shells than
when they're submerged
than native mussels.
Yeah.
So, nature always finds a way. There's a guy, on the radio program Garage Logic. I haven't listened to it, and I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. I think it's turned into a podcast or whatever. Anyways, he used to have this guy on, Steve McComas, and they called him the Lake Detective. Loved his bits. Like, this dude's one of those guys that just, like, knows everything about everything when it comes to lakes, management and stuff. And
was he a limnologist or something?
I don't know what his official title was, but he has, like, Blue Water Science, I think, is his company, the company he works for, and they fix lakes. Okay. Like, basically, like, if you've got a...
More than likely, he's got a background in limnology. I think that's a study of lakes and rivers and shit.
Sink straw, right? If you got an algae bloom or something, because the straw will, like, eat up that energy or the phosphor, whatever. He nerds out on all that stuff. And, like, if you mentioned the shtick was, like, he cannot be stumped. Like, somebody would call in with, like, a random lake fact, and then he would just know it, and he probably would know exactly what lake you're talking about. Like, this dude's brain was just filled with, like, an unbelievable amount of knowledge.
Bet you wore Velcro shoes.
Maybe he wore a cool fedora, like he's the actual detective. He was cool.
Okay.
Yeah, he was cool. Bow tie vest. It was awesome. But anyways, he talked about invasives and was a very, like, not popular take as far as, like, the media is concerned. It's like the media sells fear, right? That they peddle in fear and hyperbole. Well, that's not him. He's like, here's the thing with invasives. Yeah, I agree we should keep them all as best as we can. But they're going to get in there. Once they're introduced somewhere in the state, they're going to be everywhere in the state. It's just a matter of time. And in some way, you almost just want to let it happen. Get it over with. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The lake will fix itself. Mm-hmm. He's like, but here's the problem, that humans are very short term. And that fix might take 100 years, which is more than one human,
can handle.
Most humans' lifetime.
Yeah.
So we just think, this just seems like
fix now.
This is never going to happen. Like, it's irreparable damage. Well, yeah, to our measly little time on, but like, it will right itself. Something will find that resource. Something will take advantage of that resource. It'll find a new balance.
Mm-hmm.
Has it changed forever? Yeah, in a way, but life still goes on. It's just, and I've made this point when it comes to all sorts of stuff. Like, humans, we just think like we're kind of static. However we find a place, we just feel like that's how it should be forever, which the most unnatural thing on this planet is something never changing.
I'm unnatural.
Everything changes.
Yeah. No,
like,
you're right.
Like, literally everything changes. And the example I always use is like Isle Royal. Like,
oh yeah,
go back and not even that long ago, that used to be a lynx caribou dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the white man found it, it was moose and wolves. So now we at all cost keep this thing as best we can, moose and wolves. In fact, it's the only national park which we actively fuck with. Like, sometimes when that thing freezes over, the wolves just leave. And then we're like, we got to bring some wolves back. So they catch wolves and they drop them back off there.
Why do we do that?
And then the moment they can get off, they're like, deuces, I didn't want to be here in the first fucking place. Even though they have an island literally full of wolves, an exhaustible resource of food, they just don't want to be there. Well, to me, I'm like, well, isn't that part of the research? Like, I'm sorry it's not the data you wanted, but it's the data you got. Like,
right, yeah. That's fucking
then
wild.
This is what happens. Like,
Right.
you wanted to watch this place because it was isolated to see what would happen without man's influence. And by doing so, you influence it by bringing wolves there. What are you doing? Leave it alone. Whatever happens, happens. If that means the entire population of moose crash because they eat themselves out of house and home, then I guess that's what happens. And then we'll see what takes its place, if anything.
Right.
There's no right or wrong in nature. Nature just does.
No, that's a solid point.
It just does.
I wish I could interview one of them wolves. Be like, God, these fuckers trapped me. I didn't want to be out there. I had to wait 7 years for that fucking lake to freeze over so I could get the hell off that goddamn island.
The moment they could, they did. They were just like, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, remember that show Fantasy Island? Yeah, not a fantasy. I want to fucking leave.
There's a dark side to that. Yeah.
That's a solid point, man.
Yeah. It's like I'm all for leaving it alone and seeing what happens, but that means you have to actually leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, and right now, in our discussion that we've had about, this whole live scope and this and that, and I'm like, wow, for me it's, these kids should, I think I said to you, like, man, you should fucking do it the old way, earn your stripes, and this is just a freebie. But when we had a conversation about it, you said, but they don't have to. Why would they? Like, if I was going to start logging company, I'd be a complete dumbass and a waste of time to go out there with a 2-man handsaw.
Right.
The
way it should be done.
The way, earn your way to that chainsaw, boy. No, fuck that. I'm going to buy the biggest, baddest chainsaw. They got those big
claws that go, and you see that thing that runs up the tree and strips the branches off?
Well, it slices at the bottom and then it lays it over and it goes.
There's ones that go vertical before they even chop it. It's like it just it shoots up that tree. It's like, bro.
I've shown those videos to my dad, and he's like, "Oh, that's this and that's that," because he was in forest management.
They're wild, dude. Those things
DNR.
Those things are wild. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, what the hell would I do that for?
Why he doesn't have to do that, and that has worked its way. That conversation you had with me has worked its way into raising my daughter. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I'll show her the old way of, reading a book,
Yeah. You turn the page.
Right. But hey, I know that your life is going to be on some sort of tablet. I recently, and I'm kind of on the fence with this, she's really good at texting, and I've watched her text. But the dad in me is like, because I didn't have it, I had to learn how to spell the fucking word, right?
Oh, right.
Where she knows that it has PR.
Yeah.
And then
predictive text, yeah.
Right. So she's not reading the word, she recognizes it. I have to ask myself, Yes, she needs to learn how to spell. And then I'll be texting and I'm doing the same thing. Oh, yep. Okay. Yep. But am I in my back of my mind justifying my action because I had to learn how to spell it?
Right.
So who am I to say that I can use it, but you can't because I earned my way to using it? You see what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I think it's important to, for those that are interested, teach the old ways, if you would, and that can be as simple as.
I think there's a better term than old ways.
Well, I mean,
the standard
ways, but to the point, like I think, the people that know like legit bushcraft, those are like somebody needs to continue teaching that.
Absolutely,
because who knows when all this technology gets taken away from us, if there's some other sort of cataclysmic event or maybe just a massive war or who knows, something, right? Or we just no longer get to use, and I think it's foolish to think that that'll never happen.
Right.
You know, that it's just always going to keep getting better and better and better. Well, that's not what the history of the world tells us.
Right.
So when the shit really hits the fan, thank God there's some people that take an interest in learning primitive ways, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, I think live scope forward-facing sonar is all great. I do. Like, it's an amazing tool.
Wouldn't have done us a shit of good today.
No, it wouldn't have done. I mean, that's the thing, that no one tool is perfect for every every situation. But then there's something to be said too about, like, well, can you find fish without it? You know, you don't have to, right? You have this thing. I mean, you're going to use it more often. But then there's going to be people, older people, generally like us, that know how to. We had to learn how to find fish without it, so we have that knowledge. So in the event that you don't have it, like
we have the advantage, and I think we forget that.
Yeah, I know I can still find fish if I have to without it. I might not like it.
And my buddy Aaron says the people that bitch about it are the people that can't afford it.
True.
And that's 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I can't afford it. I don't bitch about it though, because I would
like. I would bitching about it.
I would like to have it.
Yeah.
If I had it, I would have it. Bottom line, like
I mean, I have the money for it, but I don't want it.
Even the fact that I've used it, my buddies have it and I've fished with them. So when I go out by myself, there's part of me, like, if I'm frustrated, I'm not finding fish. I'm just
like that little kid in the park.
I'm just like, God damn it, if I had
the playground that nobody wants to play with. Yeah. Kind of like, oh, fuckers.
I'm just like, oh God, I'd kill for a live scope right now.
Yeah, it'd be so much easier.
I'd be like, where is the school?
Oh, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that when I go out with Crafty and he's got that, it's kind of fun because I don't do shit until he says, go over there.
Drill there.
Okay, cool. See you, man.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Right.
Then there's a good chance that after about 4 times of that, I'm like, I'm fucking staying right here. I'm done.
I will say this. There are times where it hurts you. You get on one of them basin days where the crappies are just on crack and they just don't stop moving, and they're, for whatever reason, they got the afterburners on. You would think, and sometimes it's true, but you would think that, like, oh, live scope, it cuts down on the amount of holes you drill. Not when you're chasing. Not when you're chasing those ones that are just screaming around the lake, and you got 4 guys out there, like, they're over there, 45 feet over there, go. Yeah. And you're trying to get ahead of them. You drill, and not even the drill, just for no reason, like, they've drilled, they're dropping their lines, it looks like everything's going good, and all of a sudden they just take a hard left turn because they can. And you're like, oh shit, they're 40 yards that way. Sprint, and you're drilling, and it's like it's a whole thing. Like, you got 2 guys drilling, 1 guy running with the Vex, and the other guy just spinning the live scope around. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I've never stuck my head down that hole to see what it sounds like when that kind of mayhem's going on either.
So I don't know how much truth this is. I've kind of seen it, but when my buddy Joel had it on his boat, like, and we call it pinging, like, he would see it, he'd be like moving it around. I was saying, oh, there they are. And if he pointed at them too long, like, they would move off. And I don't know if it's like, are they starting to figure it out? And I think we're giving him too much credit by saying figuring it out. But
are we sensitizing them?
Are they getting conditioned to it? Are they sensitizing it to it? It's like, oh, I don't like that, or that means, I don't know,
danger,
something. Yeah, or the ones that are hyper aware of it learn to avoid it, and the ones that aren't get caught, right? Like,
it'd be interesting to see some data on lakes that have heavy use of that and look at the behavior versus a lake that has 50% less use of that.
I also feel like humans have an amazing ability to find patterns where patterns don't exist.
Like numerology, fucking hate that. That's such bullshit.
But I mean, like, it's easy to point the live scope at a bass, see it move off, and go, oh, he didn't like that. Or is he moving that direction anyways?
Yeah. Was he taking his shit
Like,
and then moved on?
You can't prove. Like,
right.
Here's the thing. Like, scientific theory gets involved. Like, you can't then reset the board. It's like, all right, bass, positions, people. I'm going to not point this at you.
Big Charlie, get back in line.
Right. And then we're going to see if you move. It's like, you can't do that. It's there's a bunch of different factors, Mm-hmm. Was that thing seemingly staying still because it was staring down at a crayfish or something, and then it moved off, and that timing made it look like it moved?
Yeah, playing into the coincidence.
Yeah, a lot of bass move around. I mean, it's kind of rare for one to just sit completely still unless it's on some sort of like hard structure, a tree or a rock or a dock or something like that. Yeah. If they're on a brake line or a weed line where they're moving in and out of the weeds, they're constantly moving, right?
Yeah. A lot of times they have to move or they'll die.
Well, I mean, it's just like, so pointing your live scope at it and seeing it move one way or the other, it's like, yeah, that's what they do.
Now, like if you point at it and it moves to the left and you move your thing to the left and then it switches back over to the right and then it moves back to the left, then you can say, yeah, he feels that.
It only moves, or like, see, but how would you?
Then you just keep flipping that thing back and forth, and your buddy just rips a jig in there. You've got him locked in. You've calf roped him with live scope pinging.
But how would you look at that fish? See, there would have to be a way to observe that fish and see if he stays still until he gets pinged. But you can't see him until you ping him. So I don't know. Do you got to have a scuba diver down there? Like, okay, I'm watching it. He isn't moving.
But if he moves, then you've got the factor, well, did the scuba diver make him move?
That's my point exactly. It's like there's no way of really deciding that.
What? Hey, what's up, dumbass?
Cat's fine. What's up?
Well, it's going to start chewing on the end of them rods.
Well, you don't want that.
Yeah, and so if I bolt out of here, that means we're having... I got to fire up the crock pot. There ain't a whole lot of protein on that thing.
No, it's pretty. That's a small cat.
Yeah.
What? Look at it. He is not liking that conversation.
She.
Sorry.
That's all right.
How do you know how it identifies as?
Don't. Not on this podcast. Not on this podcast. I respect that whole thing, but we're not going to get into it. Anyway, no, they'll figure out some sort of data at some point. I think it would be kind of neat. Here we go.
Hey.
Nope. Hang on, people.
You got to go move those rods or it's going to be a disaster. Cats are doing cat things. Look at this cat is guilty.
Cat. I got these for free. These rods were lots of money. Lots of money.
It's amazing how pets know, like, when they've fucked up. They just. You walk over there and it's like, don't hit me.
I can't help it, Dad.
It's hilarious. You sort of see that video? It's the cat and he's like, it's on the counter. It's like slowly moving a glass towards the counter and it's just getting ready to fall off. And then the owner takes like a plush cat, beats the shit out of it, puts it down. The cat takes its other hand and pushes it back on the counter. Hilarious. I don't know if that was staged or what, but hilarious.
Hey, I don't know if you saw this. You remember these?
No. What the hell? Oh, is that Hot Wheels?
No, they were these little like monster truck things. You put a AA battery in them and had on-off switch. And they had like indoor tires and outdoor tires, hard rubber and then foam.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I thought that was just like a case that held a bunch of cars.
They do hold cars, but they're like little Jeeps and shit like that.
I'll
crazy. Yeah. It's kind of neat. Old stomper case.
Where'd you find that?
My buddy had it. He's like, man, check this out.
Hey, can I have
holy
it?
Shit. One of them collectible things. But,
nice.
Is
that the Sturge with the no-roll sinker? Is that the Sturge rig right there?
Yes, sir. It's actually a walleye trolling rod, but it's got a really soft action to it.
I was like, that thing looks thick, like a Q.
It's telescopic.
Oh, okay.
It's like a 9-foot rod.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
But it's got a lot of.
Hey, You gonna tie flies now, Cat?
Oh, hey, yo, what are you doing? Ow. God. Hasn't been up there in months. But it's like, oh, we've got a guest in the house. I'm going to show off. Hey, look what I can do. Like a fucking kid.
Hey, you know what I can do? What's that Saturday Night Live skit? Look what I can do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the other one is a extra heavy bass rod. Yeah, I have one bass casting rod, and I throw spinner baits with it. I frog with it. It's an all around, because I don't bass fish that much. I used to have all that shit, spinnerbait rod and a topwater rod, and I'm like, they're all the same.
No, they're not.
No.
No, they're really not. I mean, you can use them for other things, but
I got into this argument with Doug one time.
It's like anything. Like you can get as specialized as you want with it. Sure, is there like 3 rods that you could do everything with? Yep. Are there other rods that you could perform that task better, more efficiently? Also, yep.
Yeah. Which brings me to this point. This is where I got an argument with Mr. Glimmerveen about on the phone one time. We weren't recording a podcast. We were talking about this very same thing, and I said, yeah, back when I was building rods, I came really close to building myself a 7'6" flipping stick, but for a spinning rod. And he's like, that'd be dumb. I said, why would that be dumb? Because it's baitcaster's the standard? Well, yeah, it's way better. I'm like, well, how is it better? Because you're jigging, growing up in walleye country, a jig rod is a spinning rod, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into, okay, building a spinning rod is far superior as far as line management goes than a baitcaster, because on a baitcaster, your guides are on top of the blank. And so when you pull down, the line wants to go down on top of the blank.
Sure.
And then roll to either side. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Way back in the day, a rod builder and some companies tried it, what they called an acid wrap. So as a baitcaster, and your first 2 guides were on top. Then the next guide up was at 30 degrees, then 60, then 90, underneath the blank.
Della Bay makes a rod like that now.
Some companies call them a spiral wrap. Mm-hmm. And it looks weird. It looks like it's all fucked up and it won't cast, but they actually cast well. But the whole idea was to get the end of the last half of the line so that it's pulling down from underneath the blank instead of on top of the blank for better control and better hook sets.
Fetch.
Dale is playing with the cat.
He's trying to teach
Engage with the podcast show.
It's fetching.
I will put it in its locker for the night.
No, you won't.
No, I won't.
That's a lie.
And so I wanted to build this 7'6" spinning flipping stick because in my mind, you're flipping a jig, you're jigging. And I said with a spinning rod, I would have far better control and accuracy growing up in walleye country and an ultralight fisherman. He goes, if it doesn't have enough power. I said, dude, do you realize that a rod blank is just a rod blank? You can make it whatever you want. I said it would have just as much power.
It wouldn't be the rod. The only difference would be the reel. I mean, if you're pitching in super heavy cover, can you do it with an open face? Sure.
They make saltwater reels. They reel fucking tuna in with spinning reels.
True, but do you want a 6,000 series reel on a bass fishing when you could just have a
You wouldn't need one that big.
Top? No, but you get better.
I think sometimes people forget that it's largemouth bass and we're not pulling tuna from the pads here. Yeah, 120-pound braid.
But you do got to get them out as fast as you can. Like I said, can you get it on a spinning setup? Absolutely. Is there a better way? Also, absolutely. Yeah. Like having that a baitcaster with a 8-to-1 ratio where you can get a lot of line quick. That's what you're gonna want.
They make some pretty fast fucking spinning reels too.
As far as I know, they don't make them 8-to-1.
Abu Garcia does.
How big is it?
I think you can get it to 4,000 series.
That's pretty big. I mean, I know some people that do bass fish with the 4,000 series, but generally speaking, like deep.
And the way they design these spinning reels now, the frames are all the same. It's just the spool depths are different.
Right, yeah. They just make the head bigger or whatever. But, yeah, you can do it. It's like you get in the argument of can you frog fish with a spinning gear setup? Of course you can. I used to do it. My brother still does it because he's not very good at a bait caster, and he doesn't want to get good at a bait caster. He's got no interest.
Yeah.
And so, but what I will say is he does lose a lot of fish because he doesn't have the same.
Compared to who?
Me.
Is he as proficient of an angler as you? There
not
you
remotely
go.
close.
There's the
yeah, but I
problem.
think if he was using better equipment, he would be more successful because
Possibly.
I am able to take up more line quicker.
Possibly. But if you gave him the right reel, right spinning reel. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, I get it. I'm just like, I understand where you're going, and you are correct to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can it be done? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a better way? Also, yes. Like,
I mean, you could take a look at
it doesn't have to come down to like, dumbass, what are you doing? Like, you don't have to take it to that level. If that's the way somebody wants to fish,
and I wouldn't be like, oh, I created a 7'6" heavy spinning rod for flipping. Everything else is obsolete. Absolutely not. I'm just saying, for me, in the way my brain thinks, in my experience in building rods and how they should work, and how the advantages of the way things can be, I would build myself one. Who knows? I've never done it. I could build myself one and be like, wow, this is hot trash. I was completely wrong.
Yeah,
and that's part of the process.
Right.
Or I could be like, damn, I'm onto something here. In the right hands, this is deadly. Who knows?
Maybe. The thing is, it's like, why would Doug care? It kind of goes back like with.
It was just
Crafty.
one of those drives.
If you break out your little ultralight on
Lake of the Woods,
who cares? Well, how does this affect you?
It didn't affect me. It drove him fucking crazy, dude.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, clearly you're having fun doing it.
Right.
Like, how does you losing a big fish?
Yeah, and I'm not picking on Doug. I love Doug.
No, I'm not
but
either.
I'm just saying, maybe he was just fucking with me at the time by saying, no, that's absolutely trash. Who knows? Doug does that kind of stuff sometimes, just to poke the bear.
Right. Well, I think it's a natural instinct to a lot of people to just be like, hey, dude, you're not doing that right. Like, when there really isn't a right or wrong way, there's an efficient and a more efficient way.
Right.
Like, you go back enough years, right, and you're right back to that, like, the good old days when they were using aluminum rods that had zero backbone and a push-button reel. Like, but that was like
the square steel blanks and shit.
Yeah, that was turn of the, that was like top technology at one point in time.
People were like, whoa.
Bro, you don't want to be using that bamboo. You got to use the aluminum, homie.
Yeah, that's where the
like,
game's
what are you
at.
doing? Like, you can't, what are you doing?
Get that shit out of here.
Now there's graphite, and we got fiber, we got all sorts of fun
You know
things
what
to work
material
with
that came out in like the 80s that tried to make a comeback and then it just didn't was boron.
Boron?
Yeah, it's
Never
like
heard of
way
her.
more sensitive than graphite, but they just couldn't get it right. It was very fragile. Very fragile, but super light, very, very sensitive, but yeah, extremely fragile.
We're both old enough, so we're similar to
Yeah.
in age, but like I remember when graphite kind of first hit the market. Like, it was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And there was a few rough draft iterations of that too. Like, it's the graphite of today was not the graphite of 1991.
No. No, a lot can be said for the stuff that is common every day. Like, I remember the first braid that, spider wire.
Spider wire.
And I was like, I am fucking spooling this on everything. And it completely wrecked my crappie fishing. Oh my God, dude. You couldn't break off. You were snagged up. You had to pull the boat in right in. That spot's done.
Bringing up a whole tree.
Yeah.
You're wrecking your rods and your hand. And
at the time,
God, get a wind knot and spider wire.
we didn't have serrated scissors when that shit came out.
Yeah.
You were like,
You had to saw that shit.
most of us just held a lighter to it. Do you remember DuPont came out with a line called like
Fusion?
Nope, 1440, and it was oval shaped.
Okay.
It wasn't round, but it wasn't flat. It was a monofilament. I don't know if you ever remember.
I don't remember that.
It was cool line.
I do remember when Fireline came, because it was Spiderwire first, and then Fireline, because Fireline was round.
Or round, yeah.
That was kind of its thing, which is definitely better than flat.
Yeah.
For sure.
But
Jesus, cat's wigging out.
Oh yeah.
Is there catnip in that bad boy? That little toy he's playing with?
No.
Are you sure?
No, I work 10-hour days, so that thing's in here by itself a lot. And so when I get home, there's times where I'm like, she loves to lay on my lap. And there's just times where I'm like, man, I don't want a lap kitty. Get out of here. She gets all butthurt. But I'm trying to think of some other shit that's changed over the years, or advanced.
Well, the new thing they're trying to get is the electric outboards. I think there is a version out now. That just seems like a bad idea. I mean, maybe not. I guess we use electric. We're using battery reels on the ice, but I just feel like anything electric and water seems like a bad idea. But we have trolling motors. So
I was just going to say, what the hell are you talking about, dude?
I'm just going through the thought process, the motions.
I get it.
Maybe. But here's the downside, though. Like, someone's got to come out and bring you a new battery. Like, if you run out of fuel with your battery thing.
Well, okay.
Because not everybody's going to have that infrastructure, right? Somebody can always get you a can of gas.
Right. But, okay, and this is funny because I was talking to my parents, I don't know, like a month ago or something. We got talking about electric cars and how I said, yeah, man, I'd love one. I would absolutely love it. The only thing I need to worry about is fucking washer fluid. That's it. How awesome is that? I turn my car on, and in 5 minutes, there's no snow and ice on it, and it's perfectly warm. I just start it. Mm-hmm. When it's 40 below zero, when I go to start my car, I pray to God that I don't crack the block because it's so fucking cold.
Yeah, but some of the electric vehicles don't do great in the
some do,
cold
some don't.
Because it's batteries. Right?
We also are very new into this thing. But my mom was like, "Oh my God, but like, how do you know where you're supposed to go if you run out of power?" I'm like, yeah, they had the same thought process when they first rolled the first Ford off the fucking line when there was 6 gas stations in the entire country.
Right.
People are like, well, I guess we can't go very far. But I said, Mom, in my parking lot, downtown Bemidji, there's 6 charging stations, and that's just here.
Right.
There's more on the other end of town. There's charging stations. I said, and also you're forgetting the fact that when you buy an all-electric car, it's software based, so it will tell you as you're driving, hey, you have a charge station approximately 10 miles away. If you don't stop there, your next one is here and you won't make it.
Right.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So it's not much different than when I fill up the tank of my car will tell me I can go 540 miles on there. But the comforting part is every 7 miles, there's a gas station. Eventually, every 7 miles, there'll be a charge station.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get better as all technology does. I've been looking at the EV trucks. It's like they look badass. I mean, they look badass. Dude, the concept of them look badass. Like you have power to each tire, like individually, like legit 4-wheel drive. It's instant power. Like right now, they can tow as much as you want them to tow. Like it. That part's cool. Right now, it's just a limited range thing. It's like if I can't run from the cities to Lake of the Woods, it's pointless. Kind of,
but you
know what I mean? They get about, I think, 300 miles or something like that on a charge, and then you have to charge it to come back.
But how often do you, when you leave the cities, do you stop and top off?
Usually not till I get there, but the other point I was going to get to is like once also then now you got to wait however long to get to charge it. So as that technology increases and you can start getting some sort of rapid charge,
which they already have.
What do they consider rapid?
I was talking to a guy out in my parking lot. I come home from work and he had one of those Rivian trucks, Rivian. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go talk to this guy. And I was like, hey, man, this is the first time I've seen these on TV and stuff. I've never seen one in person. And he was more than happy to talk about it. And he popped the hood, which is his trunk, And in there with the truck comes all these different adapters for all these different chargers. And then he was showing me on his phone, talking to the truck, he can set it up for a rapid charge. And I asked him, I said, well, how fast is rapid? And he said, well, my truck told me I should stop and charge here. And then if I do a rapid charge, it would take about 7 minutes, and I could get enough juice to get to the next charge station just south of Motley if I wanted to. Or, like I'm going to do right now, I'm going to put this on the charger right now, walk down to 209, eat dinner, and, have, kind of relax a little bit, because it tells me I'm going to have a full charge in 45 minutes.
Right.
So I'm just going to go down and grab a bite to eat.
Right. No, I mean,
it's a lot of it is just kind of a planning ahead type thing.
Yeah. And there's going to be,
which is something that we're not used to with gas.
Correct. And I do think all that's going to get better. I think it's going to get faster. It's going to get, the range will get better. Like, it's not quite there yet.
Right.
Otherwise, more people would be buying them. I mean, the thing with any of like technology, it has to be convenient and affordable for the masses to do it. Any one of those two things are missing, it's not going to catch on with the masses. There's always going to be some people, early adopters and stuff like that, whatever. I can afford it, so I'm going to get it. And somebody that can afford it, and they're like, they have the personality, they'd be like, if it takes me 15 minutes to charge or 45 minutes, then so be it. I'm not in any hurry. Okay, but that's not the masses. That's not driving the industry. I think it's going to get there someday. We're just not there yet.
Right. And that was another thing my mom brought up too, was like, oh, they're so expensive. I was like, have you even looked? She's like, no, they've got to be just super expensive. I'm like, stop. No, I love my mom, but she's almost 80. They don't know. They're not going to do that research.
No,
so they're not going to buy one.
Listen, a gas pickup truck brand new is like $70,000 now.
And you can get into a Tesla for 30.
Right. I know.
People think Tesla, oh my God, that guy's a millionaire. No, not really. They're just like any other car company. Chevy makes a $100,000 car, gas car.
Right.
It's called a Corvette or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Ford makes a $500,000 car, But yeah, so Tesla also makes an electric car that's $100,000.
Right.
But they also make one that's 30. Sure. Chevy still makes a fucking piece of shit Equinox that I can get brand new for $27,000.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, I've been in Tesla. They're great. I mean,
I've never ridden in one.
They're so fast. They're so nice.
Well, it's funny because the other night I pull into this same parking lot. I don't know if you know this, but there's a Roush testing facility here. They do a lot of the cold environment testing. So it's common for us Bemidjians to see cars and all these weird black things around them and shit.
Yeah.
Sitting out here charging was a Hummer E3, an all-electric Hummer, which I haven't seen any ads for. But dude, when it's charging, like the headlights got like this fucking charge deal, really cool. And I overheard a lot of these cars all have Michigan plates on them, and some of those guys are real dicks. Because I wanted to take a picture. There was an all-electric Lightning sitting there. He said, "Don't take a picture of my truck." I was like, "It's not your truck."
Yeah, right.
You're test driving it.
Yeah,
and I said, they're already been released to the public. Because he came at me like a dick.
Right.
And I said, my cousin's the design engineer for Ford, so fuck you.
Right.
And I still didn't take a picture. But I overheard the guy talking, and he's like, yeah, this thing goes from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds.
It's absurd.
And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, they're absurd, dude. Yeah. The taking your hands off the wheel and watching that thing change lanes and adjust its speed and stuff, also trippy. So good. But for me, my lifestyle, a car just doesn't work. So, again, until the price and usability of the EV trucks gets to where I would feel comfortable with it, I'll stick with my gasser. But trust me, if I could afford it and I think it could do what I need to do it, I would probably rather have an electric vehicle.
If money allowed, I could see you having an electric car and keeping a gas truck. Mm-hmm. Your outdoor rig.
If money allowed, and if I was just going like, I knew I didn't need a truck, and I was just making a trip to the Twin Cities for whatever. Yeah, I'll take the car. Shit, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at buying a Toyota RAV4. You know, I need something more than a car, but I do not need a full-on truck.
Mm-hmm.
I still like to drive distances, and I enjoy getting great gas mileage. Toyota RAV4 fits that. I'll be able to pull a little micro camper. I'll have a little more room for the tubes, but I'll still get that upper 20s, low 30s gas mileage.
Right.
That'll be perfect for me. I don't plan on Baja across lakes anymore, none of that stuff. But the electric outboard, I think, being that it's brand new, you're just going to have to plan your day around your battery, knowing that it's less than your gas, and it's going to be a while. But in the future, places like the Green Mill, they'll have a charge station.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Yeah, you pull up to the dock.
Which is much more environmentally safe than having a gas pump at the end of the dock.
Cat's attacking me.
Yeah. We'll eat it. I got some shake and bake, man. Hey, speaking of, I use some, it's like this honey bourbon shake and bake, and I used it for the meal of walleye, for walleye sandwiches.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was good. It wasn't fish coating. It was super good.
Why wouldn't it be?
I don't know. It was awesome. But I baked them in the oven, and I also learned that 4 ounces of walleye is 90 calories with 22 grams of protein, which is amazing. Like 1 gram of fat. Those are awesome macros, dude. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Fat's good for you.
Yeah.
So is protein.
Yeah. I try to eat about 200 grams a day.
Of protein?
Protein. I try to stay around 1,900 calories.
Well, I don't know if this is just only a strict carnivore diet thing, but I did read or hear that like if you're on like pretty much a high protein diet, whatever, not eating much carbs, plant material stuff, that you pretty much eat as much as you want because the calories for like protein, they're just like it's not the same.
No,
like the way you
that's
burn it
true.
off.
4,000 calories is 4,000 calories. 1,000 calories is 1,000 calories.
Yeah, but the way your body stores is not going to be the same. Like
there's so many other factors though, dude.
Sugars, it's all sugars, right? And even meat gets broken down into glucose or whatever the hell it is.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've referenced it before. I read this incredible article. This guy did a little Debbie diet. He lost 40 pounds in like 3 months. As long as he stayed in his calorie deficit.
Calorie deficit?
He lost weight. Did he feel good? No, he didn't.
I can't imagine.
But he did it to prove to you that calories in, calories out type deal.
But I think there's some people that have done work with like the carnivore diet where they've like maybe they're getting more calories than that, but they're also still losing weight.
Yeah, and that could be. I mean, it varies too. You could have a guy that literally lives a sedentary lifestyle, and he's on a carnivore diet. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he'd probably lose some weight at first, but after a while,
I also believe that there is no one size fits all diet. Like, what works for one person does not. I mean, like we talked earlier, like I just got lucky. Like literally just genetically lucky. I can eat whatever I want. My activity level can be whatever it is, and my body just never changes. And nobody's gonna cry a tear for me over this, but to the extent that when I go into the gym and I actually eat more, like get my calories up, eat a shit ton of protein, work out because I'm trying to bulk up, I don't bulk up. Mm-hmm. I put more plates on the bar, but when I'm standing, I step on the scale and I look in the mirror, nothing changes.
Right.
I'm still 190 pounds.
And that's, you know what? That's no different than somebody that's overweight doing all this work and nothing changes.
Right. It's like I just can't, like it just, my body is what my body is. Doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah. What I discovered with what I'm doing is sustainable for me, and that's key. Mm-hmm. You know, I've tried keto, I've tried carnivore, I've tried, fasting. You can't do it for the rest of your life.
Ice baths, bro. That's the new thing.
I'd never buy one because 9 months out of the year I got one right out here for free.
You want to get some weird looks. You start chopping holes in there and doing your own polar plunge on the daily basis.
But that's what I've been at this over a year, and I'm down like 82 pounds.
Down a lot, yeah.
But the key thing, and people ask me, "Oh, what's the secret?" There's no secret. I have I have a smart calorie deficit. Before, I actually would eat 2,000 calories once a day at one time of the day. I wasn't spreading it out, and I was actually eating more than that, like 2,700. But I just did a 500 to 700 calorie deficit, spread it out throughout the day, and ate protein and got off my ass and did stuff. And the food that I eat is sustainable. Like I love meat, but I couldn't do a carnivore diet for more than a month.
See, I mean, I'm not on a carnivore diet like strict by any stretch of imagination, but just my normal, like what I want to eat, it's probably 80% carnivore. I don't eat a lot of veggies. I don't.
I don't either. I guess you could say that I'm somewhat kind of a carnivore. I eat a lot of turkey, chicken, a little bit of beef here and there, but mostly turkey and chicken.
I got a
eggs,
freezer full of wild. I had a lot
of
goose. I have a lot of goose meat, and I didn't get a deer this year, so unfortunately I don't have venison, which I love venison though. Yeah, and I'll buy a beefsteak from time to time, and fish.
Yeah,
but I just, listen, when I'm craving a bowl of cereal and I want Fruit Loops, I eat a fucking bowl of Fruit Loops. Like I don't.
Yeah. I love cereal, but I end up buying.
I just don't eat it all the time.
Magic Spoon,
and I don't eat it all the time because I'm avoiding it. Like I just don't have like the craving to eat it all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, like tonight we went to Fozzie's. I had a burger. And that thing there was well over 1,000 calories.
I had the world's largest chimichanga, and that's 15,000 calories, and I only ate half of it.
Yeah. I gave you the heads up on that one.
It did. Like, we probably could have waited to eat a little bit because I wasn't really hungry. I'm like, yeah, let's just eat. Let's just knock it out. Let's just get that dinner out of the way so we can go on with our life. And so I've put that meal down before.
Yeah.
Prime conditions.
Yeah.
Like, I can eat pretty healthy. I mean, like, healthy meaning a lot if, like, I'm in the, I want to. But it's fine. I get 2 meals out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not freaking out about that burger, because I know tomorrow I'll be walking around out there on the lake for hours, a lot longer than we were today.
Right.
When I take off to go fish with my uncle, probably that night when I come back, I'll probably hit the gym, do my thing. That's become a part of my life. It's part of my habit now. And that's the other big key to my deal is my mental relationship with food. Like I used to I'm going to watch a movie, but before I get that started, let's get the snacks in order. But it hit me one day. I was like, why do I feel the need to eat when I'm literally sitting there doing nothing? That's like, I got a full tank of gas. I leave this parking lot and I stop at Holiday to top it off with 13 cents worth of gas. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't need to do that. And then I'm like, wow. There's bits and parts in movies that I was so involved with snacking that I missed.
Right.
So I joke with people. I'm like, yeah, if you stop eating while you're watching a movie, you'll actually get to see all of it. But there's been a couple of times where it's like, you know what? I check my little tracker thing. And I'm like, damn. Yeah, I need a yogurt, and I'll throw some 0 sugar chocolate chips in there. It's a nice little snack. I don't deny myself something either.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I generally try to eat pretty healthy just because I like doing it. I eat a lot of like the whole foods, like real meat, wild game, and just potato and onions and like I don't eat a lot of stuff out of a box. I don't eat a lot of stuff out of a can. And I think that stuff helps too. But one of my favorite treats and joys in life, usually after a hunt or a fishing trip, on my way back, I will get I get a Milky Way Dark,
ooh,
the blue can of Nos, and a bag of Funyuns. Sounds like a really odd combination, but it's not. It just hits, and I think I've done it enough times where It's almost like a tradition now. It's like if I'm eating this, it means I had a successful trip of some sort.
How's that meme audio go? It's like a reward.
Yeah, it's like a reward. Exactly. That's pretty much that's what it is. Because you get the salt and the sweet, and then you
get that tartness from the nos.
Yeah, and then you go with a little tart in the nos, and I'll eat a couple Funyuns. Like, ooh, that's a little too salty.
Well, you're just taking that palate all over the place.
grab another dark chocolate. Like, oh, this is great.
Have you ever shit yourself after that?
Nope.
Because it sounds like I could.
No.
Just out of just the confusion.
No, I've never in my adult life have I shat myself.
Well, you know what? We're at that age. One more year. And then it's like, oh, it's all right.
Yeah, it happens. I sneezed.
Yeah. But between, 22 and 49, you better have a damn good excuse.
I've had some close calls.
Oh, yeah.
Where
I'm excited for the
the
shit.
pucker.
Yeah, I'm 50.
The pucker speed walk,
Oh, yeah.
And like trouse coming down, and you're like backwards jumping towards the toilet, and I'm pretty sure it's on its way out, and I'm Steph Currying that thing from the
3-pointer
top of the key, yeah. And it's like, oh, I made it. Like,
oh yeah.
Literally, you kind of think back in your mind, like, if I would have struggled with the lock on the door for one more second, disaster.
You'd have been locked up. Oh, it's happening.
Disaster.
Yeah.
So I've been close, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah. Wow. What a great thing to land on right there. Shitting ourselves. Hey,
I mean,
it's part of life, though, man.
Sure is.
Well, hey,
you enter this world shitting yourself with somebody wiping your ass, and that's exactly how you leave it.
Longest lone angler in lone angler history.
We setting records.
3 hours, 15 minutes.
No way, dude. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fun.
I think we're kind of starting to wind down because we're talking about shitting ourselves.
Or winding up. We didn't even get crazy. This is nowhere near an unhooked.
No. Usually because we're on the phone for those.
Maybe. You think that's what it is?
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
You're in studio live.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating.
Oh, that's
stupid. It's much easier to talk shit on the phone because I could be like, I'll end this motherfucker right now. Bam.
That's weird.
No.
That shouldn't. No.
I enjoy talking to you, dude.
I enjoy talking to you too. I think the thing is, because I guess I can't speak for you, but for me, knowing it wasn't an unhooked, the podcast for me is like, we're getting a little too far off. Let's bring it back to fishing.
But it's still kind of unhookish.
A little bit.
I mean, we had some, when I put this thing together, I'm going to be like, oh, we were talking about rock bass. And then in the flip of a switch, we're now in the Ukraine in Starlink and drones. And then
we did talk about that.
Back to rock bass and then to EV vehicles. Like, wow. Like somebody's going to buy us like a 5-pound thing of Adderall and be like, stay on topic, boys. Just go ahead and slice this up like a cheesecake and eat as needed.
No, I got to stay in my caloric deficit. I catch too much.
I don't know how many
Adderall.
Calories are in Adderall.
All of them.
Oh, yeah, that box when we came back.
6 inches of.
Those are high performance fucking multivitamins.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Speed.
30 months for like $38. Or not 30 months, 30 days.
My high performance vitamins I'm going to start doing is, and I've talked about this on my podcast, is
black tar heroin.
Fish liver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when I made this last time, I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I kept some fish, and I wanted to make a stock, and so I tried it out, because my thing is to make I want to eventually catch some burbs, use the carcasses for stock, and I'll play on the old poor man's lobster thing, and I think I've talked about this on your show. Make a poor man's lobster bisque, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to rough draft it with this bass and a couple crappies. That way, if I fuck it up, big deal, right?
Right.
My one chance a year I go burb fishing, I catch something, I screw it up, I'm going to be pissed.
Right.
So
you should be burb fishing over on Vermilion. Nobody does it over there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some.
Oh, yeah.
And so it turned out good. So now I'm confident that the burb meal is going to turn out the way I want. But I got to thinking about the fish livers. And, like, when you say fish liver, like, even now I've had it, and it's good. even now I say it, knowing it's good, it doesn't conjure up great images in my mind. Like, it just doesn't sound good.
No, because you've seen, at the fillet station many times the guts.
Just slimy, whatever. Yeah. And so I did some research too. I'm like, oh, is it even healthy for you? Like, is it got heavy metals in it? Like, what's going on? There's a bunch, and I stumbled on some studies that there's actually more mercury held in the muscle meat than in the liver.
Interesting.
Don't know how that is. I don't know the mechanics of it, but I was like, okay. And then I started seeing some recipes and people talk highly of it. And I'm like, all right, okay, when I do this, I'm already saving the carcasses, which also doesn't look appealing. You just have fish heads in a pot.
Right.
Gross. It ends up being delicious, but it does not look appealing. So I kept the livers, and they're small, and anytime I try something new, I do the same thing. Just butter, pretty much salt and pepper. I want to see what I'm dealing with. Is this a flavor I want to accentuate, or do I need to cover this up?
Right.
How much ketchup is this going to take to make palatable? Because after reading all the nutrition stuff, I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Like, so fish liver is like super high in vitamin A. It's also really high in vitamin D, which is one of the few food sources where you can get D. Generally, you got to go out in the sunshine to get it. That's how humans get their vitamin D. But you can
Craigslist.
Fair. Fair.
Sorry.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. I cooked it up and it was really good, to the point where I'm like, dude, there's a lot you could do with this. And knowing that, like, the idea of it's not great. So when my family's up this summer, I'm gonna be saving on the sly the livers till I get enough to, like, I'm gonna make up like a pate of some sort. In the meantime, I want to concoct just a recipe that hits,
right,
and then put it on a charcuterie board, some little baguettes, maybe some Gouda cheese. So just make something like super bomb. Set it out and watch people just annihilate it, and then tell them they ate fish liver.
Right.
Otherwise, they won't try it.
Oh, 100%.
You gotta trick them into eating the good stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try that. But with burbs, their livers are almost as big as the meat you get off of them. So you get a lot more. Like, if you're taking any sort of fish oil,
well, it makes sense because they're a cod.
It's cod oil. Yeah,
yes.
that's what.
Yeah.
Any of those things, like your vitamin A gel packs you're getting, more than likely that's fish oil.
Mm-hmm. A matter of fact, I just took my last 2 fish oils the other morning. I got to buy another big jug of them. That's one thing I've incorporated in with this diet.
You've been throwing away nature's fish oil when you gut your fish.
Yeah, it's more cost effective if I just go to Walmart or Target and buy it. It's way cheaper.
But they're good though. It is tasty. Like, I really did enjoy it. I was like, this actually tastes really good. It doesn't taste livery. It doesn't taste fishy. It was quite nice.
To me, in my head, would it be fair to compare it to, say, if you were just to do some good old standard button mushrooms with salt and pepper? Is it that kind of consistency? Or is it more meaty?
It's softer than that, even. It's more like a meat butter.
Okay. All right. So it breaks down pretty easy.
Yeah, it breaks down.
Okay. So it doesn't hold like a...
Which is why a lot of people make like a pate out of liver, because you can chop it up or grind it up and it turns into a paste.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it'll be interesting to get a bigger piece of fish liver, like with the burb, and see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And just knowing that, like, the nutrition I'm getting out of it just makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I
will say that, like, I enjoy eating burbot more than I do any other fish, not because of flavor, because, like I've said before, they don't taste like lobster. Because if they did, they'd be non-existent.
Yeah, you'd trap the shit out of them and sell them in
But
market.
when you clean them, you've never cleaned them, have you?
I have, yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have.
Have you noticed, like, the oil on your hands from just the back straps? I don't know. There's just something about that makes me feel good when I'm eating them.
Well, the whole thing about fat, like, being bad for you, it's like that never sat well with me even as a kid. Because when I was a big animal nerd, right? I had my nose in animal books before I could read. I just like looking at the pictures. And then you get into it, and then you watch nature shows. And if you look at nature, they go for the fattiest stuff first. Like everything eats fat. Like everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it's bad for humans. Like that never made sense to me.
No.
It's like, what? No. That's no. And turns out that's how it is. Like it's
I would rather
if you have fat and sugar and it's like everything together, not good.
Right. I'd rather use bacon grease or pig lard than Crisco.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's made in a refinery somewhere. It's like
Yeah.
probably a few molecules from being fucking motor oil.
Yeah, you think vegetable oil too. It's like we're just so used to it now too. But you're like, like you grab a cob of corn and eat it. There's no oily film left on, unless it depends on how much butter you put on it. But just like what do you have to do to get oil out of corn? Holy shit!
I don't eat a lot of corn because they also make plastic parts and shit out of it.
Right.
Like,
burn it in your car. Yeah, it's.
I
mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some corn on the cob, and one of my other favorite road treats is corn nuts, which I have in my truck right now. I love crunching on them things.
Never liked them.
I love them. It's more the crunch, honestly, than it is the flavor. Yeah. But
I'm a weird guy. I hate cucumbers, but love pickles. I'm
opposite. I like cukes, but I'm not a big pickle guy.
Yeah.
But I don't like that. I don't like anything dill pickly. Yeah. I'm really the opposite. I'm like people that like pickles. Do you like sweet pickles?
No.
I love them.
Fuck no. It's like gross, dude.
I love sweet pickles, dude.
I do not like.
That is a consistent. I've never like people that love pickles, like bread and butters, dill pickles, whatever, gherkins. Hate. Like, I think unanimously hate sweet pickles. And I love sweet pickles and don't like any of the other ones.
Nope. I do not, as far as fruits go, like, I do not like any member of the melon family. Watermelon, muskmelon, honeydew melon, cantaloupe, I don't like it. I just don't. There's something, I don't know if it's a texture thing. Like, watermelon, it tastes like a dirty water.
So if you would, like, to the point, like, if you ever got a dog, you would never get a collie.
Why? What do you mean?
Melancholy.
Yeah,
dog.
Mental pretzel. Yeah, I don't like, never have. Just don't like melons.
I love cantaloupe and I love honeydews.
Nope. I like bananas. I like the shape of bananas.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yep. Plantains, I just start sweating.
Even better.
Like, man, look at that thing. What a hog.
We tried ending this before. Maybe we should end it again. It's getting weird.
Right. It is getting weird. I'm parched as all hell. I kind of want to veg out. Get ready. Try to do some push-ups, man, because I think tomorrow we're
11 o'clock.
We're gonna get a 12.
I hope so, dude.
If we get a 12, the whole community is gonna know about it.
Okay.
Well, at least the community out in those fish houses.
Hey, you're gonna be hoopering?
Like, man, I think there's a squatch out there.
Squatching.
Yeah,
dude.
Something's making some noise.
A 12 would be great. 12 would be expensive if I catch it.
Not really.
I gotta get a rep.
Those two are $120.
Yeah, you told me they were pretty cheap. Is he honoring those prices?
Probably.
Oh shit, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. He's right there in Keewatin, Minnesota.
Nice.
Not that far of a drive for you.
Oh, dude, I'll drop a buck and a quarter for sure.
Someday I will get a piece from Jimmy, and I know that like it takes a few years, but there's a reason for it. I mean, he's world class.
Right.
I would wait.
Yeah.
That'd be totally fine.
Yeah. Right. Don't need it right this instant.
No.
I've been that with any trophy I've done, whether it was a duck or a fish or whatever. It's like, hey, I get it when I get it. I'd rather have it good than get it fast.
Right. It's kind of like I have a lot of tattoos, and at one time I was going to apprentice to be a tattoo artist, but I just psychologically I was like, man, I fuck up too much on paper. There's no eraser, it's like, oh God, I just would psych myself out. But yeah. I'd hear so many people come in and like, the first thing out of their mouth, it wasn't, okay, can I see your portfolio? It's like, how much are your tattoos?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't even be in here if you're worried about price.
Right.
That shouldn't be an option. You should forget about that. You should be looking for the quality that you want.
Right.
Same thing with taxidermy. If Jimmy charged $300 for a bluegill, I know that is going to be master class shit right there.
And don't ask about turnaround time. because the guys that are good have a really long turnaround time.
And that's
they're
a good
busy
thing.
for a reason.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I got enough shit to look at. Matter of fact, before we end this, what piece would you like me to add up there?
You need a crop.
I do need a crappie, but you know what I'm thinking?
Or a big jumbo perch.
I'd love big jumbo perch, but I think my top one is a bowfin. Spawning colors.
Spawning colors. That'd be pretty dope.
And I'm talking, I'd like to get my personal minimum length is 30 inches.
You know, I've never really measured my dogfish that I've caught. I've caught quite a few of them.
Yeah. I think that state record is attainable too. I've heard some absolute monsters.
I got a story as a kid where I'm pretty sure at the time it would have been a state record. I think would have been broken as of now because it's at 12 now, right?
Yeah.
When I caught the one that I caught, and I was probably 17, somewhere give or take a year, this thing was huge. I thought it was a giant northern. And then when I got it up, I was like, oh, it's a dogfish. And we didn't weigh it. And then everybody in the boat was like, how much you think that weighed? And we all guessed it, over 10. And I think at the time, the state record was like 10 or just might have been high 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it would have been, if it wasn't it was right there. Right. I mean, the thing was absolutely enormous.
So here's the deal. If we get you a footer tomorrow, you think you can get me a big dog? Can you put me on one?
I can get you. Yeah, I think I can go out with pretty good confidence and get them.
I'm not expecting you to do what I did to you today.
No, I actually think that late spring, early summer, I think if I went out with the express purpose of just targeting dogs, I could do it. Now, is it going to be a 30? I don't know, but
yeah,
I know where they hang out. I know,
right.
And it basically it's like you don't just fish,
right?
You hunt them down. I'm going to physically lay eyes on them,
right,
before we fish for them.
Like I know there's 12s and 12 pluses where we're going tomorrow. Will it happen? I don't know, but I know that they're there.
Right.
So, same situation.
Yeah.
There's a possibility of it.
I'd have to do some research and try to find one that's known for bigs. But the thing is, nobody keeps dogfish.
Right.
People do shoot them. So you probably wouldn't want to go somewhere where it gets heavily bowfished. Your chances would probably go down for a big one. But
right. See, and this is the only part
where
they're
in most waters.
Well, around here, I know of 2 lakes around here that have bowfin in them. But where I've heard some absolute giants, and these are coming from walleye guys down on Leech. Leech has some absolute giants, but there again, I'm not going to be kicking the tube around on Leech, and especially trying to target dogfish.
No, that'd be tough.
It's kind of like rock bass when people ask me, how do I target them? I'm like, well, I just go where I've caught them before. But
it's a shallow water endeavor when you're hunting dogfish. Just get in the shallows, put that trolling motor on high, and keep your eyes open. Look for ones that break the surface.
Come up for air and look
then,
around, especially
then
when they're
look
spawning.
When you see one, you can find one in a bed. Game over.
Yeah. I just, man, and I'm not going to try to get them on the fly or anything. I just, I'll use conventional. I'm not set up for it, dude. I got a fucking 4-weight. I need an 8 or a 10.
Yeah.
10 weight.
An 8 would be fine.
Probably an 8, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on my tippet and stuff, but that's a long way out. That'll come later, but yeah, dogfish, man. It's been a long time since I've tangled with one.
One of the first ones I ever seen caught was like Little Boy Lake, I think, or it might have been Ball Club. One of those two. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was one of those two. It was the first one I ever caught.
The world record is 22 pounds.
Good
God. Georgia or South Carolina. 22 pound, but it's bowfin, but they call them mudfish.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of other names for them, but 22 pounds.
Dude, that's such.
Could you imagine the fight?
Oh my God.
Could you imagine what it did to that guy's lure?
Oh, yeah.
These 3-pounders just absolutely like.
Oh, they destroy shit. Yeah.
Your spinnerbait's done. It's coming back. Yeah. Blades are missing.
Oh, you catch one. Yeah, you catch one like a chatterbait. That thing's
fucking toast.
Yeah, forget it.
Your $16 jackhammer, garbage.
Paperweight.
Yeah, she's gone. Yeah. And that would be part of the mount, especially if it tore that bait up. I'd be like, you need to put this hunk of shit in its mouth.
Right.
So people know, like, this is what these things do. But I just think they're rad.
They are, dude. They're one of my favorite fish.
Yeah.
I think getting just the head one done up with like the dermatid beetles or whatever would be cool.
What Steve Ryan does, and like articulates them and shit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And maybe I might do that one if I don't get a 30 plus. You know, if I get something a little shorter, it may be like, oh, you know what? I guess we're gonna learn how to cook bowfin, but I want the skull.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty rad.
Yeah, they are pretty sweet. But all right, I'll keep my. We can come up with a plan. I think it's doable. I don't know about the 30-inch part, but maybe. I've never measured one. I don't know how attainable or unattainable that is.
Yeah. There's big dogfish over there in Jay Gould and Rapids and stuff like that. But
I don't think there's any dogs in Pelican.
No, as far as I know, like the Iron Range, you get up into the Arrowhead. I don't think there's much for dogfish up there.
No, I don't.
It's different. I don't think the water is warm enough.
They might not just get in there due to the Laurentian Divide.
Could be.
Waters flow the other way, you know? Like it's just not there's no way for them to get in there.
Maybe I'll just keep fishing the Rainy River. I'm sure I'll get one out of there.
Well, if they're in the Rainy, they should be in.
I don't think they're in the Rainy.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was gonna say if they're in the Rainy, then they should be in all those the Big Fork, Little Fork, Snake.
There's
or not Snake, Pelican.
There's
Vermilion.
Bowfin between the two lakes here. People have caught them, big ones, in the Mississippi River here. And then Big Turtle up here has some bowfin in it.
Anything connected to the Mississippi is going to happen for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's end this because I'm about ready to get on another tangent about catfish opportunities on Lake Bemidji.
Forget it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.